morning, Sacramento. My name is Kyle Ledbetter, and this is your 2025 Masters Update. Justin Rose is currently in first place at 8 under. Bryson DeChambeau is right behind him at 7 under through 9 holes. Defending champion Scottie Scheffler is at 4 under and is yet to tee off for the day. Coverage of the Masters is brought to you by Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
The icon, Allen Stiles, not here today. Brenden Nunes filling in. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. here on the Allen Stiles Show, Sacktown Sports. What's going on, everybody? Sacramento Kings in the tail end of their regular season at very least. We know that they will have postseason basketball. If you want to be a stickler and say postseason is not the same as playoffs, which is honestly where I stand, playoffs still TBD, but at very least, the Kings will be playing in one postseason play-in game, and TBD what happens from there. Today, we're going to dive into what we've seen from the team recently. They've won 4 games. That's what we're going to kind of start with here, but as well, trying to figure out how this Western Conference is going to play out. You go from 4 to 8. And there is 48 wins for the Clippers in the 4th seed, 48 wins for the Nuggets, 47 wins for the Warriors, 47 wins for the Grizzlies, and 47 wins for the Timberwolves. Trying to work out all the tiebreakers here is absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, at the point where I'm like, let's just get through today's games, and then figuring out the tiebreakers for Sunday specifically will be a lot easier. There are no games tomorrow, which is a little bit weird to me, by the way. I guess they just want all these games on the final day of the season. Personally, not the biggest fan, but it'll make for a fun day. We also plan to dive into some grades for players, coaches, front office members for the job that they've done this season. And it's a little bit of a tough one because do we include Kevin Huerter? Do we include De'Aaron Fox? Alex Len probably would. Yeah, he's not going to be part of the conversation, just to be honest. But, there's been very many different iterations of this Kings team. And that's another thing that we want to kind of talk about throughout the conversation today. How can you accurately judge the job that Doug Christie has done, given all these circumstances? And of course, we're going to replay a Sam Amick interview from yesterday as well, while I head over to Tom's Watch Bar. And we'll be there at 11 o'clock. We'll be there from 11 to 2 p.m. doing the show live from there. Feel free to stop on by, say hi. Going to be right there in Doco, across from the Golden One Center main entrance. Also going to have our guy Chris Watkins joining the show. About 11:30 is the plan there. And a friend of mine who previously covered the Dallas Mavericks, Brian Zillum, will be joining the show in the final hour as well. Because like I mentioned, the Kings are scheduled and set to be playing the Dallas Mavericks, who maybe have the most confusing season that's taken place in definitely this year, but you could probably go years back. Obviously, Luca trade being the highlight there, easily the craziest thing that has happened in a season that has featured, that it hasn't been the quietest year. I think the Kings conversation has gotten a little overlooked nationally, and honestly, they've probably gotten a little lucky because I think they could have gotten a lot more crap throughout this entire process and the way they handled this, but you get overshadowed when a generational player gets traded at 25, when Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, this amazing trio, just totally flame out and don't make the postseason. When Philadelphia has the total disaster that they've had this season, the Kings get a little bit overlooked. But as of late, they are riding the Sacramento Kings a 4-game win streak. They lost their first 3 of their final road trip. That was the course of 6 games. You'll remember a Orlando loss to start that off, where they were down 30 pretty much the whole game, it felt like. Indiana, you lose, I guess, a little bit of a heartbreaker there. That one felt like, to me, really the game where I'm like, oh man, Like this, I don't know that they're meshing right now. I felt like DeRozan was kind of just going full iso ball for most of that fourth quarter. And that's something that we're going to dive into a little bit later in the show as well, because this is DeMar DeRozan. I think getting lost in a lot of like, what is DeMar doing, is that this guy is top 25 in the NBA scoring because this is what he does, you know, and at some point it's not DeMar's fault. It's that you're asking DeMar to not be himself, essentially. And I think he's embraced that point guard role a little bit more. But after the Indiana game, you have a really, really disappointing loss to Washington. And G-Man came on these airwaves earlier in the week and shared with the afternoon show, I believe it was, that the Kings had a little bit of a meeting after that Washington game between players and coaches. Now, anytime I've mentioned this, people kind of make the joke of, oh, like a practice or a film session, like they meet all the time. Yes, that is true. The impression I got was that things were aired out in this, though. Not, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are mad at each other or anything like that. But hey, how can we make this work? Because Zach LaVine isn't getting involved enough. We mentioned the DeMar DeRozan thing. There's also injuries they were dealing with throughout the course of this, but they very much responded after that and took care of business against the Charlotte Hornets. Give them however much credit you want to for that. You have to win these games, and you just lost to the Wizards. So, hey, at least you took care of business against the Hornets. That was a convincing one. And then you go to Cleveland, and you sweep the season series against the team that is going to be the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. Kyle, I want to ask you, before I get into these other two games and kind of just what the trends are. I said they're on a 4-game win streak. I'm sorry. They did lose to Denver. They had a 3-game win streak, and then that ended with the loss to Denver. But do you like, does it mean anything to you that they managed to sweep the best team in the East and also they won on the road in Boston?
It doesn't mean anything. I just think the takeaway from that is that we want to talk about how the NBA is so predictable and regular season results are X, Y, and Z, but like these games can be random and these teams don't always have straightforward paths. I know people are making the joke classical Kings because they beat the two best teams in the East, but then lost to the Wizards. And if you look at the Kings this year, it's like they're like 24-12 against teams that are below 500. And then they have like a 14 games below 500 record against teams above it. But they also swept the number 2 team in the Western Conference and beat the Cavs twice and beat Boston. I think the Kings have been an exception because it's been such a weird season. But for a lot of these teams, it just doesn't always make... It's not always as clear cut as like this team was better than this team, so therefore this team was going to win. The results over a whole season will bear it out usually because you play 82 games, but game to game, there's just weird results that happen.
13-29, the Kings are against teams 500 and above, and they are 26-12 against teams below 500. But funnily enough, with the conversation we were just having, it doesn't really feel like that. Like if you look at the teams around them, right? Minnesota, I just mentioned Sacramento, 13-29 against teams 500 and above. Minnesota is 19-21. Dallas, below them, 16-27. Memphis is more in line with the Kings. They're 14-24 against 500 and above teams. They are 33-9, though, against the below 500 teams, which very much makes you question how they're going to fare in a postseason. But I think going into like part of this of being able to beat the Cavaliers 2 times and then losing to Washington or beating Boston, like I think it goes into the playing conversation that anything can happen in one basketball game. I think when it comes down to it. And a lot of these Kings games, like honestly, what stood out, like Charlotte, Cleveland, Detroit, as they go on that win streak and they're looking really good, is that the Kings shot above 40% from 3 in each one of those games. It helps a lot, you know, and I had the records the other day. I can find it again really quick. When they shoot 40% or better from 3, the Kings, 25 games, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses.
19-6.
19-6 when they shoot at least 40% from 3. And they did shoot 40% from 3 against Denver, but did not get the win, taking... Yes. Okay. So when they don't shoot 40%, we said 19-6 when they do shoot 40%. When they do not, they are 20-35. And I think that's a sign. Now, I will say, I'm sure that there is a very similar split for a lot of teams in the NBA, or at least very much like, obviously you're going to have good odds when you shoot above 40% from three. How often you're reaching that marker may be a conversation, but I think the 20 and 35, that's the little extreme part to me. And I think it speaks to the lack of defense, because that's where you can have consistency and survive your poor shooting nights.
Yes, I think that exactly outlines why poor shooting problems can be a problem when you're also giving up, what was it, like 39% to opponents at the three-point line at the same time. The Kings are one of the worst three-point shooting defenses in the league. Those things are going to add up, because more often than not, the team that wins the three-point shooting battle often wins the game. And there are exceptions, obviously, but very, very often the team that wins the three-point shooting battle often wins the game that you're watching. And it's part of why all of this is so weird, right? You mentioned the winning record, or record against teams with an above 500 record. If you take out the 3 wins against the number 2 seed Rockets, they have less than 10 wins this year against teams that are above 500, which, to your point, is awful once you get to the playoffs. But in the play-in, you only have to play one above 500 team to potentially cash your ticket to the playoffs.
Right. And Dallas is a weird one, though, right? Because Anthony Davis is back. And did you catch any of the Luca game? I was at the Kings game, so I didn't get the closest look at it.
I did watch up till like the fourth quarter.
Yeah. How crazy was Luca going in that first half? Because I saw he had 30, but I didn't see how it happened.
This is kind of the weirdest thing. It was like, it was, this is a weird way to say it. It was almost like a quiet 32.
Okay.
Right? Like every time he hit it, you would hear the fans just roar with cheers. And I think you're focused on that and the fire Nico at the free throw line and everything else, that you forget, like, oh no, he just hit 6 3-pointers in that first half. And you just kind of didn't even realize it, in part because Dallas was winning most of the first half also. So you didn't look at it like, oh my God, the Lakers just came in here and just whooped them up and Luka's going to go for 60. It's like, oh, Luka has 32 and they're winning by 3 points at halftime, but you're more focused on everything else that's happening beyond Luka dropping 32.
Yeah. Fair enough. I thought the shirts were weird. Like it was fitting for them to pay thanks to Luka, but obviously, like, you just traded this guy away. That's not exactly the most like thanks for what you've done. And it was just a really weird moment. It almost felt like, honestly, my first thought with the shirts is like, oh, they're just trying to like control the environment best they can and try to make this a let's cheer for this guy rather than focus on booing the front office member. They got both. Both were accomplished.
Oh, they did. And they got media coverage of both.
They absolutely did. Did you see Mark Cuban's reaction to the Fire Nico chants? Man, that guy is doing a whole press tour, or was, it seems, wrapped up now, saying, listen, I had nothing to do with this. Yes. I tried to stop this.
But then did you see what he was wearing at the game?
I didn't
So I only saw it afterwards when he was dapping up Luka and he's like, bleep you too or something because Luka beat them. He was wearing a jersey with Anthony Davis on the back of it, which I thought was an interesting choice by Mark Cuban, like saying, I had nothing to do with this, but I also want to support our guy who's now our center, which was, you know, very conflicting messages from Mark Cuban. It's like he's kind of towing both lines.
Yeah, I will say, I think I've mentioned this before. It was kind of crazy to me how much we were overlooking what Anthony Davis really is in that deal. Don't get me wrong. Not a good trade for Dallas at all. Like, the whole you should have got Austin Reaves thing becomes more and more obvious every single passing day. That guy, there's times where he's better than LeBron on the floor. Now, this is regular season. I don't think that he is a better player than LeBron James.
Well, you say that, but I still will never forget 2 years ago, Lakers-Grizzlies, Game 1, Austin Reaves calling off LeBron James at the top of the key to hit a step-back jumper to give them the lead with 30s. I will never forget that. Austin Reaves saying, sorry, LeBron James, I, Austin Reaves, have got this at the end of the game.
And Braun seemed cool with it, you know, which speaks to, I just heard yesterday, Phil Handy was, I believe, on the All the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes, and he was asking him about Austin Reaves, and Phil Handy said that he knew well, in Summer League, that Austin wasn't shooting very much, and he came up to him at halftime of one of the Summer League games. And it's like, hey, if you want to, and Austin Reaves, undrafted guy, by the way, kind of chose where he wanted to go. He definitely could have been a second round pick, but elected to choose where he and his agent felt like made the most sense. And obviously it has paid off. But Phil came up to him at halftime of one of the games and was like, hey, if you want to make this team, you need to shoot the ball. And Phil said the second that they got in a gym with him, one-on-one workouts, he was like, oh no, this guy's legit. And the confidence, which is to your point, was something that stood out. So Dallas absolutely should have tried to get that guy. But yeah, Mark wearing the shirt again almost feels like the AD jersey. I can't imagine that Mark left his house wearing that. I would think that, like, I don't know. I'm speculating, but seems like one of those you get to the stadium and it's like, hey, like, can you just help us try to play this a little more in our favor?
But if you're Mark Cuban, I understand he still has a partial ownership stake at the team, but like, what incentive do you have if you're Mark Cuban to toe the company line?
I mean, I guess you still are part of, like you said, part of ownership and these revenue shares, right?
But then he's also going on these podcasts and saying, look, guys, I had nothing to do with this. I wouldn't have done it in a million years.
Yeah, I guess both can be true in my mind, right? Is that I don't agree with this, but hey, I'm a part owner of this team and I got to roll with it at this point. It is crazy that, like, you got to feel for him a little bit, right? I think saying that he built these teams in his time as owner, which was a good while, is probably a little unfair, right? Like, sure, he contributed, but it's a handful of, well, I don't know, because if you want to say, yeah, I'm like crediting front office members throughout this, who's the one that hired the front office members? So it's got to be crazy for him to have contributed to like turning Dallas around so much from when he first got there. Obviously had won a chip. Then you get a generational talent that also is coming in. His first year is also the last year of your previous generational talent. It was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is greatly set up. And there's a new ownership and everything changes extremely fast.
Yeah. And, I'm not going to give Mark Cuban credit for building the Mavericks. The Mavericks did also like not win a playoff series for 11 years under his ownership, but he is one of the few owners that wants to be the front-facing guy of the organization, which he chose to sell. So that's also part of it too. He took the money, and that kind of bought his silence or lack of involvement in the team. He made that choice, right. But when he was running the team, he wanted to be the front-facing guy and face of the organization, and that's his choice. And he took the good and he took the bad along the journey.
Absolutely. And now they are fighting to potentially get that 9 seed against the Kings and possibly host that. I'm pretty optimistic that I think the Kings will win one of these games and be able to secure that 9 seed. They obviously play the Clippers and then the Suns. I don't know what the Suns are really going to be playing for, but this Clippers game today, I went down the schedule earlier. Clippers are in 4th. Minnesota is in 8th. And there is a 1-game difference between all these teams: Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Grizzlies, Timberwolves. I will say, because this matters for who the Kings will play in the second round, I was overhearing some conversations in the locker room after the last loss against Denver. These guys do have, at least some of them individually, have a preference for who they play. And I don't think I'm trying to decide how much I want to say here. Because again, I'm just like kind of eavesdropping on locker room conversations at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think who I did here is not the most interested in playing the Warriors and the Clippers. And I think it had more to do with I would rather play these other teams, right? It's all relative. And I agree. I think that the Grizzlies are maybe the one that I am eyeing the most. I mentioned their record earlier against above and below 500 teams and how they have maybe the most drastic splits in the Western Conference, which makes me feel okay. Also, firing your head coach, I think leads to some, how is that going to go over here, obviously? And the Nuggets have the same thing, but they also have Nikola Jokic on their team. So personally, I would think that the Kings have the best odds against the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves. And I do tend to side with the conversation that I overheard that Clippers and Warriors are probably really the two that I would attempt to avoid. But, if there is a script out there, they're playing the Warriors, right?
I'm rooting for that.
I kind of am too.
And just for the narrative of building the rivalry of they got us once, we got them last year. Now part 3 for a playoff spot. The Warriors feel like they could be the second best team in the West, but if they end up in the 8, something will have gone wrong. I think
what went wrong is Harrison Barnes last game.
Harrison Barnes drilling their season and putting them out of contention for a top 5 seed. One of the craziest subplots of the season at the very end.
Shout out Hassan Whiteside.
I agree on the Grizzlies. I disagree on the Clippers. I think you had the Clippers beat a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you should feel pretty good about how, and obviously Sabonis wasn't playing for them. Norm Powell wasn't playing for the Clippers, but I feel like you should feel pretty good about where you stand versus the Clippers based on their head-to-head matchups against them.
That's fair. I think that the teams that worry me with the Kings, I would say, are the really good defensive teams that are a little bit more questionable offenses, because obviously the Kings' strengths are inverse and they don't have a very good defense. So that leads to my concern of, can you even slow down the bad or the mid-level offenses, and is your defense, to be blunt, so bad that a team that is middle of the pack offensively is still going to be able to just have free reign to do what they want? And the Clippers do still have, while their offense has not been very good this year, it is obviously still James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. And those guys are great at mismatch hunting. And unfortunately, the Kings are going to have mismatches or matchups to pick on out there for these teams. So if you had to rank, assuming they beat Dallas, which is a big assumption, I'm a big believer in these are coin flips in my mind, maybe 60-40. But again, I genuinely think anything can happen in single elimination basketball. I mean, you saw March Madness. Maybe this year is a poor representation because a lot of the top seeds ended up making it through, which, by the way, I have a hilarious video of. Sean Cunningham is a big Duke fan, and I watched the loss with him at Tom's, ironically. And yeah, man was struggling. He was not having the best time.
That sounds like a great friend you are, just filming him in his misery.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He would do the same thing to me. Absolutely. So, I would agree. I think that speaks to our friendship more than anything. But if I had an order of preference, I think it's the Grizzlies first, of the Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, who I would prefer the Kings to play. It's definitely the Grizzlies first, and the Timberwolves are right sort of there, but I think I would go Memphis and then the Timberwolves and then the Nuggets. I see. You were just talking about I don't know about Clippers not feeling that would be the toughest. Would you rather play the Clippers or the Nuggets?
I would personally rather play the Clippers, but I mean, they haven't even, DeMar DeRozan obviously bobbled that pass and they could have beat the Nuggets, but they really haven't come close to beating Denver this year.
Jokic has had ridiculous games against them.
He had one of them was maybe the greatest stat line ever. So I would go Clippers preference over the Nuggets. It's funny because the Warriors would probably be the worst matchup, but it's the one I want to see the most because it's the rivalry.
Same. That's exactly where I fall. Okay, I can get with you on I'd rather play the Clippers than the Nuggets, I think. So I would go Memphis, Minnesota, LA, the Clippers, that is, the Nuggets, and then the Warriors, probably in order of preference for the Kings.
The only switch I would make is just flip Minnesota and the Clippers, and I'm with you.
Okay. You'd rather play the Clippers than the Timberwolves, huh?
Yes.
Okay. What is it about the Timberwolves?
I just think the Timberwolves are going to, in a one-game four-year season where you have to go to Minnesota, I think the Timberwolves' three-point shooting is going to give them fits. I think length is a problem because they have two guys that can guard Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. I'm not saying they can't beat Minnesota. I just think they're going to have a harder time being able to beat Minnesota than beating the Clippers. It's not to say they can't. I just think the Clippers, they basically had the Clippers beat not that long ago. I think they could do it.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely see it. I personally wouldn't hate a Clippers matchup. I got family in Southern California, and getting to go to Intuit Dome would be kind of cool. Not going to lie. So selfishly, don't hate that idea. And also going, from the Bay Area a little bit. So Warriors is never a bad thing in my mind for entertainment value, even though I did just say that I think that's probably the worst matchup for the Kings. But obviously, Denver, one of those teams we talked about, did make a big change this not off season. Typically, that would be an off-season move, but 3 games left in their season, they decide to fire their head coach and general manager. Sam Amick joined the morning show yesterday to sort of outline what went down there, and I think it's relative to the Western Conference in general, but also David Adelman, a guy that seems like a Kings guy to me for more reasons than one. So we're going to replay Sam Amick's interview while I head over to Tom's, and I will join you again here after you hear from Sam, and we can break down all the craziness that has gone on in the NBA.
Time to check out Capital Casino, conveniently located at 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
And now a brief history of the garage door. Garage doors could date back to 450 BC when chariots were stored in gatehouses. Here in the States, they became a thing around the start of the 20th century. You could find a float-over door in a catalog way back in 1906. National Garage Door has been around since 1974. They're family-owned and operated, so you can trust them to solve any garage door issues you may have. Squeaky door, malfunctioning door, or a need for a new door, which is what prompted us to give them a call, 916-638-4554. At National Garage Door Service is their number one priority. I've witnessed that commitment in my own home, certainly in our garage. National Garage Door sells quality Rainer branded garage doors. They are the nation's BSE broken spring experts. So if you have a garage door that looks and sounds like it dates back to 450 BC, National Garage Door can help, whether it's a garage door tune-up, repair, or replacement you need. They'll take care of you at National Garage Door, 916-638-4554. That's 916-638-4554. National Garage Door.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Hello, Sacramento. I'm Emran Pilati, owner of True Sports Cards and Collectible Store here in Rockland, California, and the host of the True Sports Cards Show that airs right here on Sacktown Sports 1140 every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m., where we discuss the latest trends, hottest products, and deliver exclusive interviews with other industry leaders. And don't forget to visit our shop, True Sports Cards, at 6661 Stanford Ranch Road in Rockland and see what we have for all your sports card and memorabilia needs.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at folsomlakehonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our number one priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you. 2 lines of unlimited for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings compared to Verizon and AT&T. But don't just take our word for it.
It's not just the savings that are great with our T-Mobile plan. There's all this value from all these other things that T-Mobile offers.
T-Mobile has been such a savings for us.
We love it. Switch today and get 2 free 5G phones like the Motorola Edge with Turbo Power charging that gives you power for the day in just 15 minutes. And customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Go to T-Mobile.com/choice55 to learn more. With 24 monthly bill credits and 2 new lines with autopay for well-qualified customers, plus taxes, fees, and $35 per line connection charge. Credits end and balance due if you pay off early or cancel. Contact us, plus $5 per line without autopay. Debit or bank account required. 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. See details at T-Mobile.com. Motorola Edge requires 68-watt charger. Charger sold separately. Actual performance will vary based on usage and configuration.
With Progressive's collision coverage, my family gets up to $1,000 for vet bills if I'm injured in a car accident. And that makes this Chihuahua really feel like part of the family. What's that? I don't sound like a Chihuahua? Oh, I'm sorry. What exactly am I supposed to sound like? I guess all Chihuahuas are high-strung, riding around in expensive designer purses. Actually, I prefer riding in cars. So I appreciate that my family protects me with Progressive's pet collision coverage. Okay, maybe I am a little high-strung. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states. Coverage for dogs and cats is included with the purchase of collision coverage and is subject to policy terms.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Save $12,000 off MSRP on new 2025 Silverado 1500 LT at the Maida Chevy Silverado Supercenter after all rebates.
And Maida Chevy still has one of the largest selections in the Sacramento area.
With $12,000 off new Silverado exclusively at the Maida Chevy Silverado Supercenter. Now that's big, huge. See them all at MaidaChevy.com. Together, let's drive.
5 savings must trade in 2011 or newer. Not available with special financing, lease, and some other offers.
Made a great deal at Maida. ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the place for skilled skydiving instructors, accomplished airbrush artists, and proficient pediatricians. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter to hire, you're missing out. ZipRecruiter is the place that's so confident it can make your hiring easier that it lets you try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. So if you want the right candidates for all your roles, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
We welcome in, brought to you by Jiffy Lube from The Athletic. Samuel Amick. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Good. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
We got pimento cheese sandwiches here, Sam. Have you ever had a pimento cheese sandwich?
Probably somewhere along the way, but don't have like vivid memories. But I'm sure it's lovely and tasty. Hopefully.
Well, they're not passing around pimento cheese sandwiches in the Denver front office. That's
hey,
yeah, thank you. That's for sure. Sam, did you? I'm not going to ask you if you saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming, but we tried to rank in order weirdest things to happen this year. The Luca trade number 1, Taylor Jenkins third. I think Michael Malone pulls up second in this whole thing. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree with that power rankings. Also respect your lack of Kings presence in that list.
I have fourth. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. To pull the curtain back on the media side, I was planning on writing a story going into the postseason that highlighted a lot of the dynamics that ultimately exploded the other day, meaning like some stuff that wasn't really widely discussed was, for one, and it was known but not emphasized, that like Calvin Booth, the GM, was in the last year of his contract. So I was going to get into that and the fact that like he had come really close to an extension and then suddenly he didn't have an extension and they pulled it off the table. You also had Michael Malone with multiple years left on his deal, but his assistant coaches, and this is not really normal, none of his assistant coaches had contracts beyond this season. So the story was going to be like, not only are the Nuggets struggling on the court, but there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety off the court because nobody has contracts. So I was very annoyed when this happened when it did, because it screwed up my plans, you know. But like all those same dynamics that we did know about, you know, just came to a head. And what I didn't, you know, have on my bingo card was Josh Kroenke, the team president and son of the owner, Stan Kroenke, just going full metal jacket and top roping it and saying, okay, Calvin Booth, you're gone. Michael Malone, you're gone. And David Adelman, kind of a prodigal son, not prodigal, but beloved son of kind of by proxy of Kings Nation. You're up next and take over the Nuggets. So yeah, a lot of action the last couple of days.
Yeah. So Sam, you were around there yesterday, saw you last night. I was wondering what you learned about kind of that and the inner workings, because no offense to Calvin Booth, but the GM decisions they're coming up next as far as he's already built the roster. There's no real moves to be made now. Whereas Michael Malone had games left to coach and maybe a playoff run or not to have happen. The organization to feel they're better off with someone else with 3 games to go, to me is just amazing. But what did you learn last night being around the Denver folks about why this ultimately happened with Coach Malone?
Well, I'm always good for one shameless plug a week. We just published a pretty robust 3,700 word story on it. Did our best to try to explain it. And the short Cliff Notes version of it is that as great of a coach as Michael Malone is, and I do believe that, he had definitely lost his team. And the negativity, the intensity, the lack of consistency with how he handled certain players, for years, everybody kind of understood that, Joker and Jamal Murray might get a little bit different treatment, but that, a lot of this year was all of a sudden extended to Russell Westbrook, who, in the lexicon of NBA history might deserve special treatment, but in 2025 in Denver, doesn't in the eyes of a lot of players. And so I feel like Michael's, the very thing that makes him great just, ended up kind of wearing on his team, at the end. And 10 years is such a long time. It's a lifetime in NBA coaching. But, the general spirit of what was shared with us was that players were exhausted by the emotional roller coaster. You win a few games and everybody's family and you love each other, and you lose a couple games and you're just absolutely getting reamed by the coach on a regular basis. So that was exhausting. And David, I think what we tried to highlight in the story, that hopefully we did it enough, is that like everybody's shocked by the timing. Well, I think a big part of the timing is the Nuggets' belief in David Adelman and the fact that they think he's going to be a really good coach, and that they might have lost him this summer. Not only is his contract up, but Portland, if they part ways with Chauncey Billups, excuse me, is expected to be interested, and Chauncey's future is uncertain. But that's just a name that's been tied to Portland. So bottom line, it's like if you want to take a crack at David right now, see what he can do, and maybe have the inside track on having him be the next guy, then you had to make this move right now.
Sam Amick joining us. When you couple that with Taylor Jenkins, which blew everybody away when that happened, considering where Memphis was, almost exactly where Denver is, and the fact that it took place so late in the season. We had a conversation yesterday, Jason. Look, in over in Europe, this is actually quite common. Teams going into the playoffs, they're trending poorly. Owners, GMs, all that, they know what's going on in the locker room. If somebody's lost the locker room, or the team feels like it needs a bump, and or you have a feeling you're going to let that manager or coach go anyways, they'll let him go. It's not uncommon at all to 3/4 of the way through the year get rid of the head guy and bring somebody in, and you generally will see a bump, in part because coaches' salaries don't have anything to do with the salary cap. Could you see this, I don't want to say becoming more the norm than the exception, I don't think that'll ever happen, but could you see this happening more, especially if Memphis and or Denver see success in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now that's the only answer there is yes, for sure. Especially because when we wrote this and turned it in, one of our editors questioned it because it seemed so strange. But we wrote that the Denver Nuggets, we were told, were actually impacted by Memphis's choice, that they found it interesting and logical. And that's a small factor. It's not like they just said, let's do what they did. But it was the same spirit of it. Have less problematic leaders, if you will, people who have less baggage. The energy in the room was so bad in Memphis, that they wanted to shake it up. Same thing in Denver. So, yeah, if it works, I could see it happening, especially if you have a situation where a guy like David Adelman, when I asked him last night, how did you handle your voice differently today? And did you address the team? How did you handle your responsibilities once the news came out? And he was like, I've been talking to these guys for 8 years. Like, they know my voice. They know who I, you know what I mean? It was very easy for him because he has all this kind of institutional knowledge and capital built up with their group that, to me, it's not really, you're not looking at this going, oh my God, how is David Adelman going to figure out how to be a head coach? I think that's probably going to be fairly seamless, and you don't have all the pent up, kind of anxiousness and frustration that was possibly dogging you down to begin with.
Sam Amick of The Athletic, brought to you by Jiffy Lube, joining us. Sam, I think you worded that perfectly about Michael Malone, kind of the same thing that got him to where he became a winningest coach in Denver and led him to a championship. That fiery, open, very honest approach to the media as well, maybe sometimes too honest, some of the stuff he would say about his team. Maybe ultimately at the end was a bit frustrating for some of the players. So with that said, I mean, he's been successful. Maybe it's a shorter shelf life for him in another organization, but do you see him getting another head coaching job if he wants it?
I mean, I think his reputation's in a good place. I just think an owner, is going to have to make sure that they're comfortable with his level of intensity, because I don't think it's an overstatement to say, like, he's the most intense coach in the NBA. And it's honestly kind of been somewhat, like, I don't know what the word is, like, underplayed publicly. And so you guys know, we knew him in SAC. And was it a mistake to fire him at the time in SAC? Of course, especially when DeMarcus Cousins was out with meningitis, and that's indisputable. But there are things from back then when it was like, similar stuff that related to, like, I guess the point being that you got to understand the whole package. So when he felt the walls closing in at SAC, then it was like, it's time to get in my bunker with whoever's with me. And if I have any doubts about you, then you're on the other side. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an uncommon trait with coaches too. Like, Tom Thibodeau is kind of that way. So with all that in mind, like, yes, I think he's going to be someone who certainly gets discussed, and on that short list for all these jobs. And really, if we're being kind of critical about it, like, his accomplishments far exceed Taylor Jenkins. Taylor did a nice job in Memphis, but Michael's got a championship resume now. He's got something in Sacramento that speaks well of his reputation with, aged well, I guess, over the course of time. His Golden State impact was there when he was an assistant. So, yeah, I think he'll be in the mix for stuff.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Growing your garage. You could go online, find a space, and get catfished. Or you could work with an agent who's a realtor, here to guide and help protect you from the surprises you didn't see coming. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors. Right by you.
Coach Doug Christie here for your truck headquarters, Folsom Lake Ford. Shop all your favorite models on sale now, like America's best-selling F-Series. Check out a huge selection of Mavericks, F-150s, and Super Duty trucks, or tech-filled SUVs like Explorers and Expeditions. Plus a huge selection of Broncos and Bronco Sports. All in stock now at Folsom Lake Ford in the Folsom Auto Mall. Right now, buy any new Ford with zero down on approval of credit. Save big with low interest finance rates. And Folsom Lake Ford always pays top dollar for your trade. Hurry to Folsom Lake Ford in the Folsom Auto Mall, a 6-time Triple Crown winner for sales and service excellence. That's why they are my trusted dealer, and they should be yours too. For 35 years and counting, come down and take a test drive today. Tell them Coach Doug Christie sent you, or shop online at FolsomLakeFord.com.
Hello, I'm Frank Ock with Retirement Security Centers with a weekly economic update. Stocks have been volatile and stealing the headlines with significant drops and increases in value. Are bonds a safe haven for investors to wait out the storm? Usually they can be, but are they being pulled in too many different directions to have a more normal reaction to stock market sell-offs? Current bonds are being driven by recession fears and the potential of increased inflation due to tariffs. The S&P 500 was close to bear market levels, but due to lower profit forecasts, current earnings yields are only 5.5%. Current 10-year Treasury yields are 4.3% risk-free, so equities are less attractive still compared to Treasuries. With the Federal Reserve holding rates steady, they're in a bind. Consumers and businesses could slash spending due to tariffs, which usually helps drop prices, but if if import prices increase, that could mitigate the lower demand, keeping inflation sticky. Another reason Treasury yields have remained elevated could be the concern about U.S. government's ability to refinance its nearly $37 trillion in debt. If the world economy no longer looks at U.S. currency and bond issues as sure things, that could have a long-term effect on the global economy for years. How might this affect you or your family? Please go to frankontheradio.com to schedule an appointment, watch videos, and receive market updates to help you start your journey so you can define your future.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Mosaic Wealth, member FINRA SIPC. Mosaic Wealth is separately owned and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Mosaic Wealth.
Hey, what's up, Sacramento? It's Kyle Draper. Turn up the cleanliness at your restaurant, healthcare, or industrial business with Alsco Uniforms, the official sponsor of the Sacramento Kings Mop Crew. We've got you covered with crisp uniforms, hygienically clean linens, floor mats, and of course, mops delivered weekly. But that's not all. Alsco Uniforms also offers weekly services for first aid and restroom supplies. Discover why it pays to keep clean with Alsco Uniforms. Just go to alsco.com to learn more. Again, that's ALSCO.com.
With 25 award-winning years in Northern California, Ashton & Price is your local injury law firm. Pro attorney tip: if a firm presents as local but they're in LA, red flag. If your first consultation is not with a lawyer, big red flag. At Ashton & Price, your first consult is with a local attorney, and if serious injury prevents travel, a lawyer will come to you. Still not enough? George Washington's my uncle. At Ashton & Price, no red flags, just red, white, and blue.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton & Price.
What's up? We're talking to Chad Hoblet of Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram and Woodland. Ram Truck Month is back. Chad, what kind of deals are happening at Hoblet?
Right now, save up to $17,000 off MSRP on the hard-to-find new 2024 Ram 2500 Bighorn Crew Cabs. We have hundreds of new Ram Heavy Duties available with huge savings, including on the new 2025 Ram Heavy Duties. One of many reasons we are California's #1 Ram truck dealer.
Okay, what kind of selection are we talking about?
We have over 300 new Ram Heavy Duties available, including the all-new 2025 Ram Heavy Duties everyone's buzzing about. With more arriving daily, it's a full-on Ram takeover. If you've been thinking about a new Ram Heavy Duty, now is the time, especially with potential tariffs that could impact the pricing soon.
Search, select, and save through their whole inventory at HobletDodge.com. Unbeatable prices, unbeatable selection. Nobody beats Hoblet, period.
$17,000 total net savings on select new 2024 Ram 2500 Bighorns after $79.72 factory rebates and $90.28 dealer discount. Rebates include $500 first responder bonus cash for eligible first responders. To this net savings, sample VIN 395, 300, and 396, 633. See dealer for details.
Sam Amick joining us. Sam, I got a question for you. Just obviously, it's a guessing question. I'm just curious what you think. Would David Stern have rejected the Luka Doncic trade to LA?
No, because one part that always gets glossed over with the Chris Paul stuff was the unique dynamic that came with New Orleans,
the ownership
being for sale. Yeah, and the league having overtaken operations. You know, I mean. That part always, people think that David just came in and was just like, nah, this trade's not okay.
Right.
No, he was overseeing the franchise. And so I absolutely don't think he would have blocked it. When I understand the question for sure, but no, I don't think he would have blocked it.
Just reading yesterday as more comes out about it, and obviously with Luka returning back to Dallas, you know, the franchise is set to or is on pace to lose hundreds of millions of dollars over the next few years. Season tickets are in the tank. You've got the fire Nico chance. I'm not asking for Congress to open an investigation, and we've seen bad trades before. I just think the thing that still stays a little bad taste for a lot of us is just the lack of open market, the lack of when you look at what when you look at what the Lakers got, or should I say Dallas got for Luka Doncic, and you look at what the Spurs got in that trade, I mean, they're actually not crazy far off. And when you look at Rudy Gobert, 4 first-round draft picks, Mikal Bridges, 5 first-round draft picks, Donovan Mitchell, 4 first-round draft picks, and then it's an aging, brittle Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and something. I keep trying to be a contrarian and try to defend Nico somehow, and I'm having trouble doing it, Sam.
You can only defend Nico for, and tap the equation, which is like the choice to trade Luka. Like, you're going to be in the minority, but you can get there.
Yeah.
As an argument.
That's right.
But once you get to what he got in return, there's nothing to talk about. So I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, they continue to act as if the secrecy was necessary because, if the star player knows that you're going to trade them, then if you don't, then it's a wash. Well, then guess what? Then you just decide to trade them.
Right.
And you are guaranteed 1,000 times out of 1,000 going to get more than what you've got. So no, I think what you're saying is fair.
In Dallas last night, they probably had to go through that too. Like that's the first time. It's emotional. We saw Luca's emotion. It was really, really amazing theater to watch. Then Luca goes off and beats them. And but kind of sticking with Dallas, and we now know for sure that's who the Kings play, whether it's in Dallas or more likely here. Kind of your thoughts on Dallas. I think when it happened, look, nobody thought the trade was amazing for the Mavs, but with a healthy Kyrie, with AD, with Lively, with Gafford, with Clay, and some things you go, well, it might in the short term give them some sort of runway here, but they have been gutted with injuries. What do you look at with Dallas and the Kings in that 9-10 matchup next week?
Yeah, I mean, I think, they're still going to be tough, as long as they've got AD. That's a tough out. My first thought as you were kind of going through the timeline there is like, it's just wild how much, and I know this is just pro sports, but we're all, we're NBA heavy here. Like it's wild how much can transpire in the course of a year, just because for Dallas, you talk about, going back to that back-to-back set of games against the Kings last season when the Mavs and the Kings were neck and neck in the standings. Right after the trade deadline, and then the Kings fall back, the Mavs surge ahead to the finals, and then full circle, the Luca trade, all this stuff, and here they are, neck and neck again with what feels like a million developments for each team along the way. It's just insane how much both organizations have gone through since then. As far as the game, it's two mediocre teams that will slug it out. We'll see what happens. But, I know, like always for the Kings, we say that the historical context is still there. Like getting to the playoffs, for the second time in 3 years would not be nothing. So I don't know how the players feel in terms of their level of passion and kind of burning desire to make that happen. At times they've obviously looked good lately, last night notwithstanding, but yeah, we'll see if they can pull it off.
Back to Denver. It was announced today Josh Kroenke will take over as president of basketball operations while they search. Is that – I know if I heard that here, I would lose my mind, as would a lot of fans, but does that seem that out of pocket for you, or is it a matter of course while they find someone else? Does that ring any bells for you, alarm bells?
Josh being the interim president?
Yeah. Not really.
No, I mean, he was before.
Okay, yeah, so – and then go ahead.
He's a pretty – I just think, to me, and I'm like a big critic, I guess, of nepotism within the league, but he's one of the few that I have in the Kirk Lacob type vein where it's like he's got a good reputation, and he's got a reputation. He's a guy who does know the game, a guy who is well liked among the team, and yeah, he's had that position before, so it's not like daddy's son coming down out of nowhere. Like Josh has been a leader in that franchise for 10, 15 years.
And are you buying at all the whispers that Jokic being extension eligible? You've heard this, that there was a little bit of lack of whatever between him and Malone, that kind of spooked Denver a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we wrote that Joker, along with the other key players, were, tired and frustrated and fatigued by Malone's style. We started hearing noise 2 weeks ago that I mean, and Joker's never the type. He didn't go to management and say, get this guy out.
Right.
He's kind of but he is kind of a wear your heart on your sleeve kind of guy. So that, Josh Kroenkes of the world, they're not stupid. They see him in the Golden State game when he's exasperated and kind of yelling at teammates about, do this and do that. And why did you do this? He's just kind of losing his mind. When they lost to the Wizards, he was real vocal about the defense being bad. And even behind the scenes was pretty frustrated. So it's kind of like, the weird comparison, but we're all parents here. Like when your kid is acting, out of sorts like that, like you got to figure out why. And, you know, I guess in that scenario, the Nuggets are the parents. Like they care about this dude and keeping him in Denver, and they knew that something had to change.
Sam, we've seen in the West, OKC run out in front and put up a number that obviously no one's going to catch. And now we've just got this incredible race for 3rd through 8th, basically. And last night, I know you were at the Kings game, but Harrison Barnes, a former King, former Warrior, hits just that killer shot against the Golden State Warriors. This was a team that was playing so well and still can get it together, but just kind of this race that we have now, Sam, here for the last, 3 days of the NBA, 4 days of the NBA season, especially in the West, I think it's going to be pretty good theater for you and everyone else that's covering the league.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at folsomlakehonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our number one priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Spring has sprung, and now is the best time to spruce up your home. Between spring cleaning and evaluating your home, it is the perfect time to reach out to the folks at the Overhead Door Company of Sacramento. Jason Ross here, and I'm so glad we did. We reached out, and we're now about a month in to our brand new garage doors. Now, first off, we improved our curb appeal. They look great, and it's one of the first things people notice when they approach your home. A new, modern, stylish garage door can improve the overall appearance of your home, just like it did for us. Also, how about this for a nice benefit? The return of investment. A new garage door is high on the return of investment home improvement project list. It's one of the more cost-effective upgrades you can make to improve your home's value. Hey, see for yourself. Check out their products. Go to the showroom at 6756 Franklin Boulevard and ask about the Sacktown Sports Special. Overhead Door Company of Sacramento, the genuine, the original overhead door. Always look for the red ribbon logo.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Oh, I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you out, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Hey, Assistant Smokey Bear. Call me Papa Bear, because I'm grilling up dinner. You get it?
Yes, good job.
So what should I do with all these coals?
Don't just toss them out. Put them in a metal container because those embers can start a wildfire.
I understand. The stakes are high.
Ha, 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 ha.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Lowe's knows how to help pros save. That's why the new MyLowe's Pro Rewards program lets you unlock exclusive member deals on the things you need every day on the job. Plus, MyLowe's Pro Rewards members can get volume discounts on eligible orders through a quote of $2,000 or more. Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Exclusions, more terms and restrictions apply. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the mountains or go pick up your dry cleaning? RV wins! Are we cleaning the gutters or taking the RV camping? RV wins! Are we getting a new passport or cruising up the coast? RV wins!
Don't forget, you got that trip to Sweden coming up.
Oh, yeah, passport, then RV.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates, other insurers, not available in all states and situations.
And now a brief history of the garage door. Garage doors could date back to 450 BC when chariots were stored in gatehouses. Here in the States, they became a thing around the start of the 20th century. You could find a float-over door in a catalog way back in 1906. National Garage Door has been around since 1974. They're family-owned and operated, so you can trust them to solve any garage door issues you may have. Squeaky door, malfunctioning door, or a need for a new door, which is what prompted us to give them a call, 916-638-4554. At National Garage Door Services, their number one priority. I've witnessed that commitment in my own home, certainly in our garage. National Garage Door sells quality Rainer-branded garage doors. They are the nation's BSE broken spring experts. So if you have a garage door that looks and sounds like it dates back to 450 BC, National Garage Door can help, whether it's a garage door tune-up, repair, or replacement you need. They'll take care of you at National Garage Door, 916-638-4554. That's 916-638-4554. National Garage Door.
Ready for an early bird special? A new HVAC system replacement, both heating and cooling, for as low as $11,789. This is a limited offer and ends April 15th. Bonnie.com. Some restrictions apply. License 696355.
KHD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
This is Sacktown Sports 1140.
Good morning. My name is Kyle Ledbetter, and this is your 2025 Masters Leaderboard Update. Justin Rose is the leader in the clubhouse at 8 under. Bryson DeChambeau is at 7 under. Rory McIlroy just hit an eagle on 12 to get to 5 under, and Scotty Scheffler has just teed off. He is at 5 under. This Masters update and all your Masters coverage is brought to you by Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes joining you live from Tom's Watch Bar out here in Doco. Sacktown Sports filling in for my guy Allen Stiles. Getting a little bit of a long weekend out here. Kyle, thanks for the Masters breakdown. I was told the other day that the Masters are essentially like the finals of golf, and this is how undereducated I am on golf. Kyle, to your knowledge, how accurate is that, and who should I care about if I do tune in?
I would say no, because golf also has 3 other majors, but also a playoff, but the playoff is less important than the majors. It's all very confusing. But this is kind of their premier event of the year. In terms of who you should care about, I don't know. Justin Rose is winning right now. Scotty Scheffler is like the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of golf at this point. He wins all the tournaments. No, maybe that's not a good example.
Is there free throws in golf?
There are no free throws in golf, but whatever your example, maybe he's the Jokic then. He wins golfer of the year. He's won a bunch of titles. Some people say he's the best since Tiger Woods, which I guess Tiger Woods would be LeBron in this scenario. So, I don't know. We're just watching it as we go. I'm not the biggest golf person myself anymore.
Got you. Well, I will attempt to educate myself. Who are you rooting for?
I'm rooting for Xander Schauffele because he's from San Diego.
There you go. Always good to root for a hometown guy wherever you may be from. But you just heard Sam Amick's interview from the morning show yesterday, diving into the Denver Nuggets firing. Extremely surprising, specifically the timing of it all, to let go of their head coach, Mike Malone, and also move on from Calvin Booth. I think one of the interesting aspects here that Sam mentioned is the potential logic that, well, first of all, Memphis firing Taylor Jenkins, possibly contributing to this, and looking at that hey, this makes sense. Maybe it doesn't look as bad if we're not the only team firing our coach with single-digit games left in the season. But also with these other openings around the NBA, with Minnesota, Sacramento, we'll see how much of a coaching search takes place, or if they just decide to re-up and make Doug Christie the long-term head coach here. But I think part of the logic, like I mentioned, that Sam laid out is, if you really like David Adelman, then maybe you just kind of want to lock him into this now. Hey, we want you to be the next guy. And
would rather you not go talk to. Sam mentioned Portland, and I think that Sacramento is another team that would make a lot of sense. Clearly, there's value placed in, I think, having a affection and love for the city of Sacramento. I think that the ownership and there's value in, I think, loving the city and wanting to have a productive, successful team on the floor for this city and having an understanding of how much this fan base loves this Kings team. Obviously, Doug being Sac royalty and having been around the team for so long plays into that. You could go back to Vlade Divac, Bobby Jackson being part of the coaching staff previously before making his way to Philadelphia. He was head coach in Stockton for a while. And David Adelman, in his first press conference as interim head coach of the Denver Nuggets, had some interesting, at least things that perked my ears in how much he has love and appreciation for Sacramento. Obviously, his dad, Rick, having coached the Kings for so long throughout their glory days. So here is what David had to say in his intro presser.
It's obviously kind of bizarre. I think I've had a lot of moments like this. I coached the game against the Blazers years back when Coach was sick. And what I realized is I'm going to have a lot of special moments, and my dad got fired a lot. So he coached in a lot of places. But no, all jokes aside, this place was so unique and special. And the style of basketball they played here was, maybe I'm biased, some of the best basketball ever played. And very forward thinking with the bigs, playing through the bigs. The guards were more scorers. And, you had Webb and Vlade, Brad playing through those guys, legendary players, really crazy. It's Doug tonight, coaching against Doug. But all those guys, special to this community. And I think the cool thing is it's still special to them.
Absolutely. And I obviously is still special to David. And it wouldn't surprise me if, the people on the Kings side enjoy hearing that from a guy that could be a potential candidate. I think that there's a decent chance that Doug Christie ends up sticking around. Obviously, I would say that Doug leans into that, history in Sacramento and loving and putting value on how much the city gets to enjoy this team even more than David, I would say. But it's an interesting note, and definitely, like I said, something that perked my ears up, and I'm like, they probably enjoy hearing that. Do you have any thoughts, Kyle, on just those comments? Does it also stand out to you as something that you could see the team themselves, being interested by?
So the part that I thought was most interesting is just how popular of a candidate David Adelman was, just because we hadn't really heard his name in prior coaching searches like that. But, Sam in the story, in his story for The Athletic and talking to the guys, mentioned like, if Portland moves on, they're going to be interested there, and possibly Sacramento. Obviously, they have a head coach opening, and you have the Nuggets kind of getting a little bit of a head start on potentially hiring him, which is super interesting because David is essentially a hot commodity for 3 head coaching jobs. And I thought that was really interesting for someone who hasn't been a head coach before, and we haven't really heard connected to jobs in the past. So I am curious to see where this all plays out and what direction Denver goes in, because I assume whoever they hire as president is going to get to hire the coach, unless they also do a Vivek Ranadive situation of saying this is going to be the coach and now we're going to hire a president of basketball ops with the coach already being installed.
Right. Order of operations, obviously extremely important in this whole process. And on Sacramento's side, while I think Adelman makes sense as a candidate, I still am under the belief that Doug Christie is going to be the leader in these conversations. And to your point, maybe if they do move on from general manager Monty McNair, like most people seem to expect, that maybe they will allow the new front office member to have their say in who the head coach of their team is. I personally think that's the way that it should go. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be Doug, but I think that the front office member should have the ultimate say over who, they want to be in lockstep with. Again, I know Mike Brown's tenure didn't end well here, but I go back to his intro presser talking about needing a horizontal and vertical alignment in the organization. And I think this plays into this conversation. And as you consider the job that Doug Christie has done so far, this really being an evaluation period, I think it's hard to sort through all this. There's been so many different iterations of this 24-25 Sacramento Kings team. You can go to the Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox team that made it through, I believe it's 36 games before Mike Brown gets let go. There's only about maybe 2 weeks where De'Aaron is still here with Doug Christie as the main guy before the final game in OKC. Zach LaVine joins them for a home game against the Orlando Magic. And even since LaVine has been healthy and Christie has been in charge, they've dealt with a handful of injuries. I think Domantas Sabonis going down on multiple occasions for minor injuries, things that honestly seemed more serious in the moment when you're watching them and end up only being a week or so, which is a credit to Domas always wanting to play through and try to be out there. I think that's something that is growing a little bit more rare in the modern NBA, and obviously Domas very much plays into that, but him being out as you're trying to acclimate Zach LaVine, and that specifically, I think, being the chemistry that needs to be developed. Obviously, Zach already being very familiar with DeMar DeRozan, but the two-man game specifically with Domas and Zach, where I think one of Sabonis' greatest skills is making his teammates better. But in order to do that, he has to learn their tendencies, learn the best ways to optimize them and set them up in positions to be successful. And I think that we've started to see that over these last 3-4 games, like we talked about a little bit earlier here, that, you know, the pace is up a little bit. I think that DeMar DeRozan has embraced the point guard role, but again, bringing this back to Doug Christie, it's extremely hard to evaluate the job that he has done up to this point, given the weird circumstances. Kyle, do you have any thoughts on the job that Doug has done? Is there any specific work that you feel like, or adjustments that he has made that stand out to you?
I don't know about stand out. I've thought it's kind of been a mixed bag so far, but also he hasn't been put in a position to succeed with the team at this point, which is not the most shocking sentence, between taking over in the middle of the season from the unanimous coach of the year to trading the roster essentially after a 7-game win streak. I know there were a couple games in between. It's just been a very chaotic 2 months to get to this point, and perhaps some of the messaging has fallen on deaf ears. I know some people have had rotation questions and things of those sorts, but I think he's done a mixed bag of results, a fine job under the most adverse of circumstances. And, you know, if this truly was an interim situation, maybe it goes to a full coaching search after this. But based on what you said, that it seems like they do want to give him every chance to be the head coach for the long run. Even still, I know we were saying that back in January and February, but now as we're actually here and the coaching search could potentially begin, 7 days from now, it sounds like he's still in good standing, you know, with a difficult season that he's had, or difficult 50 games that he's been the head coach.
Yeah, I think that we are going to have a decision pretty quickly, or at least get an idea of maybe the candidates not long after their season ends, which is obviously very TBD. At least one play-in game scheduled in the books. You don't know if they're going to host the Dallas Mavericks yet, or if they will be headed to Texas for that game, but at very least one postseason play-in game, potentially two, and hey, it may be an entire playoff series. But I think with Doug Christie, I have a lot of the same questions that I think existed with Mike Brown, you know, which is probably because the rosters are pretty comparable. The searching for a backup center, right? Like there's a decent amount of games where I feel like Jonas Valanciunas is getting a longer stint in the first half than the second. There's the backup point guard role, which is a funny term in my mind because I'm not even exactly sure who the starting point guard is. Obviously, you have your starting, you know, smallest guy that's playing technically the one, but actually the initiator, it seems like it's more DeMar DeRozan as of late. But backup point guard, are you going, you know, there was the Markelle Fultz experiment. I kind of think that bringing in Terrence Davis, not only is that have in line with the Malik Monk injury, obviously, but probably speaks to not feeling the greatest about the job that Markelle Fultz has done so far, which is understandable. Obviously, he wasn't on a team for a reason. And I think that was some of his choice to get his body right and try to be in his best shape, obviously, with all the injuries that he's had. But if he was a phenomenal player, like he would be on a team at the start of this season. No questions asked, obviously. But there's Devin Carter that you're messing with a little bit there in that backup spot as he is trying to figure this all out. Still the same defensive questions that this team has, and the inconsistencies. We mentioned 19-6 when they shoot 40% or better from three. It's a very similar stat to, I remember talking about when they shoot above 40% when Mike Brown was on this team. So I think similar questions for the same reasons. It's a very comparable roster, but with these 2 games remaining, like I mentioned, 2 regular season games, potential play-in action, and fighting for a postseason berth, I'm curious how much this final stretch matters when it comes to their decision on if they are going to keep Doug around or not. I don't know if it should, from my perspective, because I think we've seen a lot of what this team can do. I'm very stuck on what is the potential ceiling, and I think that's where a lot of my current, honestly, pessimism kind of comes from with the current iteration of this team. But quick changes, I think, can make this feel a lot different. And also, teams tend to, I would say, overreact to how their seasons end, whether that's, if you go and get swept by OKC in extremely convincing fashion, how does that make you feel? Because that would have meant you won 2 play-in games and you were able to survive that. I could see a world where, sure, you get swept, but hey, we were leading at halftime in 2 of those games, so we feel pretty good. And I think that the end of this season is going to matter when it comes to Doug's job. I'm not sure how much it should, though. Do you have any thoughts on how much you think it should matter, Kyle?
I have been saying for months they should have a plan now. Like before the play-in, before the end of the regular season, they should have a plan of what they want to do, regardless of 1 game or 2 games results. That's far too small of a sample size to make a major evaluation like that. What
if they somehow beat OKC? I don't think there's a world where that happens, but this got posed to me the other day. Does that change anything?
Yeah, I think you should have a plan and then have the flexibility to pivot, right? Like they should have a plan going forward, but then if someone offers you 10 first-round picks for Domantas Sabonis, you adjust your plan, obviously. Like I think if they beat Oklahoma City or they win the lottery for some ridiculous reason and get Cooper Flagg or some anomaly event happens, sure, you change your plan, but for the most part, you just go with it.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. And a direction is what's important for this team, right? I think, like you said, making a plan is probably the best way to go. And obviously, you want to figure out how you're going to continue to navigate all of this as the season is winding down here, and you only have so much time. I think a potential benefit of getting bounced early, if that were to be the case, is that you get to just fully focus on all of this sooner rather than later, right? You get a head start on the process a little bit, somewhat similarly to what we were just talking about with Denver. Maybe they are getting a head start on their offseason here. And with, again, we want David Adelman here. So I think it's an interesting scenario for the Kings to try to navigate here with 2 regular season games left. Will they matter? And when it comes to Doug Christie's future with this organization, or will they try and look a different direction? Is David Adelman someone that should be considered? We're going to dive into that more here on the other side. Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles here from Tom's Watch Bar on Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Hey, everybody. Kyle Draper here for Mercedes-Benz of Stockton. Sometimes you just don't want to buy brand new. I get it. I understand. Sometimes you just want to try something out, maybe go for a lease. Well, Mercedes-Benz of Stockton is the place for you. They have great lease offers starting at $297 a month. That's right, $297 a month. For over 30 years, Mercedes-Benz of Stockton has been there for the community. Whether you're buying, whether you're leasing, they're the ones you can trust. So head on down to Mercedes-Benz of Stockton right now and check out their fleet of leased vehicles. They have certified pre-owned vehicles as well, starting at just 3.49% on select models from 2021, 22, and 23. So head on down to Mercedes-Benz of Stockton.
Tell them your boy Drape sent you, and trust me, they'll take care of you. They're a partner you can trust. Or you can always go online at mbfstockton.com. That's mbfstockton.com.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free. TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes joining you live from Tom's Watch Bar, filling in for my guy Allen Stiles. Getting a long weekend out here, Sacktown Sports, as actually Chris Watkins is walking in the building. He's going to join us in the next segment here, though. I want to talk a little bit about, again, mentioned that over their last 4 games, ever since the meeting that G-Man shared with us, they had after their disappointing Washington loss, that the Kings have been 3-1 and shot above 40% from 3, like we mentioned in all these games, which definitely helps your odds. But I think that the big standout here is how much Zach LaVine has thrived recently on this Sacramento Kings team. If you look at, again, these last 4 games, he is averaging 33 points. He's playing over 40 minutes, 40.8 minutes over these 4 games, averaging 33 points, 56.8% from the field, and 62.2% from 3 on 9.3 a game. Absolutely ridiculous. You also got 4.8 assists in there. The other thing that stands out to me a little bit is that Domas is getting more involved. I should pull up the numbers here at some point. Maybe I'll do this in between the next break. But I think that you're also seeing, Domantas Sabonis, I think that when he is able to be a playmaker and get assists on this team, not to just be basic of this counting stat, you got to reach this exact number and it changes everything. But again, like I mentioned earlier, I think the 2-man game between Sabonis and LaVine is something that is continuing to develop for this roster as they try to do what they can to develop chemistry in this final stretch here with not much time remaining. But I've said it plenty of times, and I'm going to keep reiterating it because I think it's one of the most important things to their current success. I think it's playing with pace. And again, sound like a broken record. I swear we've been talking about the same things, no matter who the front office members are, no matter who the head coach is of this team. And they changed up the star player, and we're having the same conversation. Like, I think the pace, obviously part of that was playing into De'Aaron Fox's strength, being one of, if not the fastest player in the league. I think it also plays into Domantas Sabonis' strength, but I would say that LaVine falls in the same category. I just mentioned over the last 4 games, he's shooting 62% from 3. I believe he's still leading the league in 3-point percentage. That's great. He can make tough shots. I think creating those open looks for him is great. He can knock down above 40% off the dribble or off the catch, but he's really excels getting downhill. It's something that DeMar DeRozan mentioned not long after Zach LaVine got here and had that big game against Charlotte, the home game that was kind of his coming out party of sorts. And so much of that was getting him downhill. When DeMar DeRozan is calling you good at getting to the free throw line, then you're probably pretty dang good at getting to the free throw line. So I think playing with pace and Domas being a big part of that is something that has stood out to me for sure. And I put out a tweet a little bit earlier today asking how Kings fans are feeling heading into the play-in. Shocker, not great, Kyle. Kings fans are not the most optimistic about how this may go. Some of these I can't even quite read, but also asked, biggest questions about the current team and how they may approach the offseason. Somebody mentions the backup point guard in here as well. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I think that Devin Carter is where I want to lead into this a little bit, because there's not very many, something we've discussed before, but internal growth opportunities, I would say, for this Kings team. And Keegan Murray, Devin Carter are probably the two biggest standouts. You could also go to Keon Ellis. Shoot, you could say that you think that Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis have another level to their game. We saw Domas get better as a three-point shooter throughout the course of this year, even if that's slowed down a little bit. I think that you could optimistically, if we're trying to do that, argue that, hey, Zach LaVine's never been in the most ideal situation for his success. Maybe there's another step there. I am also presenting the optimistic point of view here, and I don't know that I believe that, but again, Devin and Keegan are really the two that I look at of, okay, can these guys take another step? So far for Devin Carter, obviously missed a lot of his rookie season recovering from shoulder surgery and has had a couple instances of re-aggravating it. It's been a little tough, but I think in a typical rookie point guard way, and maybe point guard isn't even quite the right terminology. I think Devin is more of a combo guard who they're trying to develop into more of a playmaker. Anytime he went down to Stockton, it's, hey, we want you to run our offense. And they are running the exact same offense as what they do in Sacramento, and obviously also picking up the best player on the other side. And he thrived during his time in Stockton, but I think that there are very normal and understandable learning adjustments that are taking place during his time with Sacramento, playing the best of the best in the NBA. And I think it links back to our pace conversation a little bit of instances where Devin Carter's pushing the pace. I think he is extremely good at that. I want to say that he had the best three-quarter court speed test at the combine. However, three-quarter court is a weird way to judge that, but a freak athlete, right? He's got the same vertical 42 inches as Malik Monk, to put that in perspective. Malik obviously extremely bouncy. We saw Malik set up Devin for an extremely great dunk. So some interesting things. I think we'll continue to see how Devin can contribute to this team. On the other side, though, Chris Watkins joining us here from Tom's Watch Bar in Doco. Going to dive into what we were talking about a little bit. How much do these final games matter? What do you want to see as they approach the play-in? Brenden Nunes here filling in for Allen Stiles. Tom's Watch Bar out here in Doco. Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at folsomlakehonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Everyone has a past, but what happens if you've made mistakes and made good on that past, but it keeps following you? Are you looking for an attorney to erase past records and restore your rights? Maybe even restore your gun rights? Do you need a reputable criminal defense attorney who knows even good people make bad mistakes? Well, the attorneys at Gonzalez Law Office are here to help. Find Gonzalez Law Office online at saclegaldefense.com. Well, call them at 916-304-9187. We don't settle for less, and neither should you.
What if your business could see beyond what is and into what can be? What if you could create more impact in every decision? What if you had a partner as visionary as you are? With Bank of America, you get access to our trusted experts, real-time insights, and digital tools. So whether you run a local shop or a global enterprise, you're backed by business solutions to make every move matter. What would you like the power to do? Find out how at bankofamerica.com/banking for business. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank sponsor of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-990-1551. That's 800-990-1551.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
What's up? We're talking to Chad Hoblet of Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram and Woodland. Ram Truck Month, it's back. Chad, tell me about the deals happening at Hoblet.
Only Hoblet can get you a deal this good on the best selection of new Ram trucks. Right now, save up to $15,000 off MSRP on the new 2025 Ram 1500 Tradesman Sports. And with 500 new Ram trucks available, your perfect Ram is waiting for you at the Hoblet Ram Truck Center.
And aren't you the #1 Ram truck dealer in California?
Yeah, we consistently rank #1 in California thanks to our unique selection of Ram trucks. Plus, people love our new certified pre-owned super center with over 200 vehicles available and over 50 under $20,000.
There's only one thing to do. Search, select, and save through their whole inventory at HobletDodge.com. Unbeatable prices, unbeatable selection. Nobody beats Hoblet, period.
15,000 total net savings after 10,000 factory rebates and 5,000 dealer discounts. Rebates include 8,000 West and National Consumer Cash, 1,500 Conquest dealer cash. Must own or lease Ford, Chevy, or GMC brand vehicle. 500 on-the-job upfit. Must show proof of $500 eligible upfit. 5,000 net savings. Sample VIN 616-182. See dealer for details.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles. We are out here at Tom's Watch Bar in Doco, looking at the Golden One Center right here on the other side. Must be some sort of private event going on. We were just looking at it. Chris Watkins sitting here with me.
Yep.
Chris, what's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for coming out.
No problem. Yeah, anytime coming out to Tom's Watch Bar is a good excuse to, change the office views up for the day. How's it going, people? Oh, I forgot I have my sunglasses on. Thank you.
Your boy Bright.
I know. Yeah, man, feeling good. We got two more Kings home games here. We got today and Sunday, and I think you're going out to Stockton tonight. We got A's baseball tonight, so it's feeling good. Feeling that the weather's beautiful. I think it's supposed to be 80 degrees today, so Sacramento's kind of hitting its stride a little bit here.
Absolutely. Kind of crazy. We got 3 games today.
3 games. Yeah,
Stockton playing in the G League Finals.
Yep.
This is going to be their last home game no matter what.
Yep.
Anybody unaware, G League Finals is a 3-game series that goes 1-1-1. Orlando had the best regular season record or the better regular season record between them and Stockton. They get to host. Stockton did lose their first game. Mac McClung over there balling. I got to say, I'm not the biggest Mac McClung guy. I'm a little agitated by a G Leaguer being in the dunk contest. But besides the points, I hope, that's not wishing him bad or anything. But maybe I want to ask
for tonight for sure. Definitely wishing him bad.
Yes. Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. For the rest of this series, I would say. But like you mentioned, Sacramento plays the Clippers here. You're going to be out at the A's game. Me and Frankie kind of splitting up between the 3 there. What do you think? Let's just talk. I want to get your opinion a little bit on the A's before, obviously, we're going to dive into Kings, but we've been out to a lot of those games over there at Sutter Health. What have you thought of just what it brings to the city of Sacramento and having another event out here and how the crowds have been so far?
Yeah, I don't mean this to sound bad if it does, but I think it is kind of what you said. Like, it's something to do. Like, it's something else to do. I don't know. Actually, I would say I do know throughout these games so far, at least. Like, I wouldn't say that the A's have really garnered a Sacramento fan base. Like, it to me has felt like, whatever A's fans were okay. I don't like the term, but crossing the picket line and going to the games, like those people are showing up. But, I think it's I was talking to somebody about it the other day. Like, I mean, I think it's a really cool way of, much frankly, like it's going to be when they move to Vegas. Like, if you're a fan of the Padres, if you're a fan of the Cubs, if we know Frankie's Yankees, if you want to boo Juan Soto, if you want to go cheer on the Mets, like, it's something to do during the summer where, frankly, Sacramento obviously has got the river, it's got beautiful weather, but there's not a ton to do. You can go to River Cats games, obviously, in the past as well, but it's just a really, really cool thing to do. And frankly, I know the A's aren't too thrilled about it, but I'm glad that the tickets have been super affordable. Like, again, it gives you an option of something to do. And frankly, if you're just renting Sacramento for 3 years, I think that's fair for the community to kind of treat it that way. That if, hey, man, like, we're not going to, break our backs to go out there. But, definitely, I think as the weather gets better and, just as the season goes on, ticket prices kind of steady a little bit, I just think it's going to be something that people are just going to enjoy. And it's just nice to have the option. We've been to a couple day games out there. Those vibes have been great. I think relatively for it being a 12:30 first pitch, like those games have been pretty populated. Granted, again, like 60% of the other team, but nonetheless, I think that it's been a good environment. It's been a good baseball environment. And if you just want to go out there and catch a game, I think it's awesome. I just, if you're looking for, it's not going to be going to a Sacramento Kings game, right? Like it's not going to be a super hyper intense environment where you feel what's happening on the playing surface. It's you're going to a show, honestly.
Absolutely. And like
in the best way.
Yeah, it's a great, I'm a fan of watching Tatis go.
Man,
that is at least 420. Like, and it was listed as less.
Man. I think it was 450.
On top of the clubhouse, the second level.
Some say it went over.
That is absolutely ridiculous. Juan Soto going to be in town, like you mentioned. The Yankees are going to come into town. I'm sure Frankie's hyped. So I agree. It's definitely something to do. 7th inning stretch. You're probably going to hear, root for the Padres or whatever it may be. 100%. And it also doesn't help. Typically, you'd say Oakland,
right?
There?
I guess, because you can't say Sacramento.
What do you root? You can't say
athletics. That doesn't work either. Because I'm pretty sure it used to be Oakland. You would say Oakland, obviously when they were in Oakland, and nothing really works here. So I don't really know. And frankly, I do kind of wonder. I heard our friend Chris Biederman be interviewed on the Foul Territory podcast. Really good interview. Go check it out if you haven't already. But I thought they asked him a question that I frankly hadn't thought of. And that's really the marketing aspect of it. Like, you don't really see Tyler Soderstrom. You don't see you don't see their faces. You don't see the billboards. You don't see, I'm sure, I know we have tons of video billboards across the freeways here in Sac, but and that's maybe where you'll see, buy your season tickets or buy tickets now or whatever. But I don't really feel like the A's so far have done a good job of making the people know, like through billboards, through signage, they are here and here are the guys that you should come see. That's the one part that I really want to see them try and do better at is trying to make, again, we know you're renting the space here, but can you at least make it feel like you're trying to build a fan base here even a little bit?
I think the place it feels most like the A's home is understandably probably in their clubhouse. Like as you walk in, that's where you see the picture of Lawrence Butler on the wall and Brent Rooker, but no fans are seeing that. To your point, I guess it helps the players a little bit, but I don't know the players are necessarily loving this setup. Like hopefully it's not the worst for Sevi had some comments. They don't have hot water in their showers.
Yeah, I heard that the other day.
There was a leak.
I heard there was a leak in the clubhouse the other day, and I've heard the guys complain about there not being warm water in the clubhouse. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's a work in progress, but it looks beautiful being in the stands and all that. Great Sacramento backdrop, but there's still parts of that thing that are minor league.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get to the Kings conversation on the other side as we're getting close to a break here. But last thing on the A's is just kind of curious players that have stood out to you. And I have been on my baseball education journey over the last 2-3 years or so. I like to say I did all right. You
have definitely done a lot better than anybody I would have thought.
I will say video games helped me a lot. And that was the case even with basketball. Like, I don't know about you, but when I was super young, like my parents were like, how do you know these like shooting stats and stuff? And I'm like, well, he's got an 84-3 in 2K. Yeah. So MLB The Show has helped a lot. And they just dropped some A's cards that we're enjoying, obviously. But I think that players that have stood out to me so far, I mean, the obvious of Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, I don't think that those you can necessarily say standouts, and they haven't had the greatest starts to their season, but Jacob Wilson, somebody that I had heard a lot of hype about, and you really put me on to realizing how much he makes contact every single time. And I personally love his like jitteriness. That's not even the right word, because I think he is composed, but like the movement that he has, the open hips.
I'm surprised people say they've never. I mean, of course, I'm not Allen Stiles here. I haven't been out there at that kind of level. But to me, it's super Hunter Pence-ish, I should say. Like it's very jerky. It's almost like I don't know. It's just like he's never still. But yeah, he's definitely stuck out for sure. And Tyler Soderstrom, I mean, he's knocking him out the park right now. Those two specifically have definitely stuck out. I will say Max Muncy, obviously, besides the whole namesake thing, he's done a really good job at second. He had a couple really nice plays defensively the other night. It's just a bunch of young guys out there for the A's that you hope as the season goes on they can kind of find their form. But right now I think it's definitely stumbling out the starting blocks right now for him.
Absolutely. Well, still the highlight in Sacramento is going to be the Kings. 2 regular season games left. Well, you would like to think so. At very least, they will be getting into the postseason. Going to dive into what we want to see over these last 2 games and the play-in postseason playoffs, if that ends up happening. On the other side here with Chris Watkins, Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles on Sacktown Sports, live here from Tom's Watch Bar in Doco.
Time to check out Capital Casino, conveniently located at 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento.
Spring is here, and that means gigantic savings for all your oil change needs at Jiffy Lube today. Get a $25 gift card with the purchase of any Pennzoil Platinum full synthetic oil change through May 31st at your local Jiffy Lube service center in the greater Sacramento areas. And don't forget about the additional $30 off online coupon at jiffylube.com. Terms apply. Valid email address required. See pennzoil.com/rewards for details. Jiffy Lube, a huge spring savings for you today.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, the ultimate lunch lineup boasts wall-to-wall sports and scenic views. When you're hungry and in a hurry, the Scratch Kitchen delivers lunch in the clutch. I mean, where else can you order a 29-degree draft beer and a quickie combo on your lunch break? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks Scratch Kitchen scores every time. Dig into hand-smashed burgers, chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that, and third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store. Start with Stable.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Hi, I'm Justin Gingery. One of the most common questions I receive is what makes us different from other law firms. At Gingery, Hammer & Associates, we handle your case from beginning to end. Whether your case reaches a settlement, whether we need to file suit, or even take it all the way to trial. We will be with you along the entire way. And because we are committed to you and your case, we are as invested as you are in making sure you get the outcome you deserve. If you have an injury, just call Gingery.
It's Carmichael Dave talking to you about my good friends at American Energy. You're in the Sacramento area. You know how the seasons work. They are a-changing right now. So American Energy wants to help you stay warm for the rest of the cold season, but help you stay cool during the warm season. Best way to do that, make sure your system is operating safely. So right now is the time to take advantage of half off a tune-up, $24.50. They cut that right in half. And if you want a diagnostic, guess what? You can't beat free. If it's free, it's me. And now it can be you. And also, it's the end of the season blowout. $4,000 off a new system plus any rebates. That $4,000, that's a direct drop from the sticker price. It's a great deal. Check them out at the aeway.com or an instant quote, or give them a call at 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990. Tell them your good buddy Carmichael Dave sent you.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-9861. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-9861. That's 800-575-9861. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Listen for the Toyota Tahoe Report every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with Johnny Mosley to get the latest weather conditions in Tahoe throughout this snow season. Brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles here. We are live from Tom's Watch Bar, Sacktown Sports. I got Chris Watkins sitting here with me. And Kyle, was that a little Sabrina Carpenter you just let us back in with?
This is not, no.
Okay.
This is Lotto.
There you go. Oh, wow. Wow. Very different. Very different. Well, I just want to let you know that.
Why? What do you mean?
Well, every time. No comment.
What do you mean?
Very different artists, Kyle. Relax. I just want to let you know that every time we hear Sabrina Carpenter, wherever it may be, like at the game, they play a beat or they'll just play the song or something, we always are like, oh, shout out Kyle. You know, always leading us back in.
I am glad that that is how you guys remember me by.
Well, it's not just Sabrina Carpenter either. It's we got Roddy Ricch too. Anytime Roddy Ricch plays, at least me and Alan are always like,
okay,
Kyle's guy.
Kyle, can I also ask you? Actually, I've realized that yellow very much seems to be your thing. Like you're liking your heart
yellow.
Messages
I think said
with
yellow.
No, yellow.
Like, wow, I'm off on these young.
You're saying the color yellow.
Yellow. Yes, and I was like, is yellow your color? What's the story here?
It really, colors are my color apparently, but yeah, yellow's.
I think we should put that on Kyle's tombstone. Colors are my color. Yeah,
colors are my color.
Yeah,
you know?
that is Kyle Ledbetter right there.
That is.
Absolutely.
I'd say yellow cracks the top three.
There you go. Is it Padres because?
Right.
Not really. I mean, the Padres didn't always used to be the brown and mustard color.
Like they sure didn't.
That's
very kind of you to call it brown and mustard. Because,
brown and mustard. Well, I can't
definitely call it two other things that are those.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I
never thought of that.
I can't say the other thing. I have to say brown. I can't say the other one on. Well, I guess I can.
Well, you know,
poop colored. That's what we're referencing.
Go. Yeah. We all get what we're getting at here.
Yeah, probably orange, yellow, and green are probably the top three for me.
Wow.
Well, hopefully there's purple in the sky tonight.
There you go.
As the Kings face the Los Angeles Clippers, and then Sunday we'll have their final game of the 2024-25 regular season against the Phoenix Suns. And they are slated to take on the Dallas Mavericks in the first round of the play-in. Like we've mentioned, TBD on if they will be hosting or going to Dallas. I would bet it's more likely that they end up hosting, given the current circumstances, and the Kings do have the tiebreaker over the Mavericks as well.
So it would be a win today, correct? A win today.
I believe so. Or I think a Dallas loss.
Okay.
So Kings just have to win one of these games. Right. Dallas has to lose one of them. Right. Either or. I don't think it's both.
Right.
From my understanding. So
tonight
that is correct.
Yes, you are in good spots. You think it's tonight? What do you want to see over these last two games? How much do you, like we just mentioned, they need to win one of these? Yeah, I guess they need to win one of them. But this is also a time where sometimes it's like, hey, let's lean into the younger players that are out there. And for what it's worth, we just did get an update. I'm assuming the shoot around is kind of wrapping up here actually probably happened about an hour ago, media availability, but Keegan Murray will be available after missing the last 3 games, and Malik Monk and Jake LaRavia will still be out on the sideline as they're working through their things. What do you want to see over these last regular season games that you hope can carry over into the play-in?
I think it's a good question for sure, because I think I've really struggled just in general with what do I want to see from the rest of the year? Like what really would make me feel good about where the team season was or where they're heading. I guess it's just playing their best basketball, right? This is a group of DeMar DeRozan, Sabonis, like obviously Zach LaVine. You can throw Trey Lyles into there. Like even to it, crazy enough, you can throw Keegan Murray, who's really only known postseason basketball throughout his career. Like these are guys who should understand that. All right, like this is not the regular season anymore. Like we now have an extended playoff because of the situation we're in, to where we might need to treat a couple regular season games and definitely the play-in game like it's a postseason game. And so that's really what I want to see from these last couple games, is them attention to detail and frankly living in the moment, like understanding the severity of the situation they're in. And now, granted, it's not like they're fighting for seed. I guess they are in a way still fighting between 9 or 10, but you don't want to have to turn it on in the play-in. You should probably get some ramp-up games to where we can see, all right, like they're really locked in, they're flowing right now, and this is how they should be playing heading into the postseason. Obviously, the 3-game win streak, like that's not forgotten just because you lose a game. They're playing good basketball right now, but I think we want to see them play playoff basketball, which is code for can they play defense,
right?
Brenden? Like that's what I want to see, is them play defense.
It's a very
so that
unsure
I can tell
question.
myself that they have a chance in these play-in and in the playoffs if they do. I mean, I think that's really their best hope. We know what they can do on the offensive end, but if we see something that we haven't seen or haven't expected to see on the defensive end, then I think I'm willing to be convinced that this team, again, full of closers, full of veterans. There's Jake LaRavia walking through Doko right now. Sticks out like
not
a
to out
thumb.
him, yeah.
Well, yeah, he'll be out of here before anybody.
Right,
and his literal sore thumb.
Yep.
For if we can give some
do we have a wrap
information,
on the
there's
hand?
no wrap or anything.
Well, he's already been ruled out for today.
I was going to say, I also believe that in the initial injury report, it said 7 to 10 games he would be available for
7 to 10 days.
And be available for potentially 3 of their last games, and obviously 3 games left. Not quite living up to that timeline. So I wonder if maybe there was a minor setback in there, but looks great. He's holding his phone.
I don't know about the White Sox with the black forces.
Yeah,
but
I also don't know about the compression tee.
It's all right.
Just out in public.
It's bright outside. It's a little. Yeah. We'll stop there.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's I agree with you. Like you said, play playoff basketball, which means can you play some defense? And I don't feel great about that answer. I think that these last 4 games, we talked about it earlier, where sure they won 3 of them. You feel how you want about that Denver game, but they've been above 40% from 3 in all those games.
That's
and
a good sign.
It's something that we talked about in the Return of the Roar pod that we did on Tuesday, that they are now up to every Tuesday, 6 to 7 on Sacktown Sports. They are 19-6 now when they shoot 40% or better. They are 20-35 when they shoot worse than 40%. Again, a stat that I think a lot of teams will have extreme variance, but it's that 20 and 35 that I think should not be that dramatic, and it speaks to this team having pretty poor defense. But something we mentioned earlier in the show is if they do get past Dallas, right? Let's just assume that's the case, which is not a shoo-in. That is still Anthony Davis on that team. Kessler Edwards big revenge game or something. He may actually be out of 2-way eligibility.
Yep.
Dallas is in a very weird situation. We're going to have my buddy Brian Zillum joining the show at 1:30 to kind of get a little bit of a breakdown of what's been going on with Dallas as that matchup is scheduled here. But do you have a preference of who they would see in the second round between of the play-in between the Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Grizzlies, Timberwolves?
Yeah, Alan asked me that yesterday, and I just don't really think it matters. I don't think there's a good answer. I settled on Minnesota, and even in my logic, I kind of was speaking out of 2 sides of my mouth because I said, like, I just don't want to face Jokic in a one-game elimination because of his capabilities. We obviously have seen firsthand what Steph Curry can do in an elimination game. Memphis, I think maybe there's a reason to circle Memphis. I think they're playing well since moving on from Taylor Jenkins. I don't know. Minnesota, to me, and again, Anthony Edwards, I'm very aware that he is more than capable of doing what I am afraid of Jokic and Steph Curry doing. But to me, Minnesota just feels like they're the team that's most combustible. I think is just the term that I keep coming to. Is feels like that team mentally is really soft. And with Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert, those are two guys who I just don't like their games, and I feel like, especially in a one-game play-in situation, I just think that those guys can single-handedly take you out of a game by trying to do too much.
Absolutely. And
I don't think there's a good answer, though.
No, there is not. I mean, you mentioned like the Jokic and every single one of these teams has one of those dudes.
Yeah, I mean, even Ja, right?
Right. And I guess you could say
and I think
Sacramento kind of does with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, but
there's levels to it.
Right. There definitely is levels. But Zach LaVine obviously has been thriving for this team recently. On the other side here, as we get to a break, Chris, I want to get your perspective on what Zach LaVine has provided to this team, what the ideal version of Zach LaVine looks like throughout the rest of this season and into the postseason, however long that may be. So stay tuned to hear that on the other side here. Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles. We're live out here at Tom's Watch Bar in Doco, Sacktown Sports.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
At Lowe's, pros save big on the supplies you need to get the job done. With the new My Lowe's Pro Rewards program, get member-only deals every week and access to free standard shipping. Plus, members earn points toward exclusive rewards. Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Points are awarded on eligible purchases. Program subject to terms and conditions. Free standard shipping not available in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusions and more terms apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Come check out Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room with the most variety of table games in the region in a safe and friendly environment. Plenty of well-lit parking available, conveniently located in downtown Sacramento. And remember, Capital Casino has the best food, the best service, and the best action. 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento. For more information, log on to capital-casino.com and please gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
I'm Ken Korak with your Green and Gold Report, brought to you by Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Well, there's nothing more exciting for a team than to see the potential of a #1 pick come to fruition. Now, we know it's early, it's just after 11 games, but Tyler Soderstrom from Turlock High was #3 in the American League in batting at .381 and tied for first in homers with 6, and Jacob Wilson, #4 in batting at .366. Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business with reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solution, and Wi-Fi backup. Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. For details on special offers, including free professional installation and up to a $500 Visa prepaid card on qualifying internet bundles, log on to business.comcast.com. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at folsomlakehonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our number one priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
And now a brief history of the garage door. Garage doors could date back to 450 BC when chariots were stored in gatehouses. Here in the States, they became a thing around the start of the 20th century. You could find a float-over door in a catalog way back in 1906. National Garage Door has been around since 1974. They're family-owned and operated, so you can trust them to solve any garage door issues you may have. Squeaky door, malfunctioning door, or a need for a new door, which is what prompted us to give them a call, 916-638-4554. At National Garage Door Service is their number one priority. I've witnessed that commitment in my own home, certainly in our garage. National Garage Door sells quality Rainer branded garage doors. They are the nation's BSE broken spring experts. So if you have a garage door that looks and sounds like it dates back to 450 BC, National Garage Door can help, whether it's a garage door tune-up, repair, or replacement you need. They'll take care of you at National Garage Door, 916-638-4554. That's 916-638-4554. National Garage Door.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-646-5959. That's 800-646-5959. 800-646-5959.
I'm ready. Let me just grab my bag. Sweatpants, huh? Didn't know we were keeping it casual this month. Yeah, I feel bloated every now and then.
You have to try new Align 3-in-1 Biotic Gummies. They have prebiotics to nourish good bacteria, probiotics to help relieve occasional bloating, and postbiotics for immune support.
All that in one gummy?
Yep. So no sweatpants next time?
Not anymore.
Align 3-in-1 Biotic Gummies for gut health support. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Sacramento Kings basketball. There's Zach with the launch to beat the clock. And he scores another three-pointer.
The run to the playoffs.
Oh, what a pretty move by Yamada's opponents on Sacktown Sports 1140.
Good afternoon, Sacramento. My name is Kyle Ledbetter, and this is your 2025 Masters Leaderboard Update. Justin Rose is the leader in the clubhouse at 8 under. He is 2 strokes ahead of the field. Tied at 6 under, we have 4 people: Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau, Corey Connors, and the defending champion, Scotty Scheffler. This Masters update and all your coverage of the Masters is brought to you by Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
There's that Sabrina Carpenter, Kyle. Brenden Nunes, Chris Watkins out here in Doco at Tom's. Sacktown Sports. Plenty to talk about today with a lot of sports events going on in Sacramento or surrounding Sacramento area. As we've outlined, we got the Sacramento Kings playing a big game, I guess, against the LA Clippers. We said earlier, Keegan Murray turns out will be available after missing 3 games. Malik Monk and Jake LaRavia will be out. Also just got an update that Norman Powell, your guy Chris, and Zubac will be questionable for tonight, while Nick Batum, notorious for his fourth quarter appearances, and Patty Mills will be out tonight. Chris, I was asking you a little bit on the other side, or what you think the ideal version of Zach LaVine looks like for this team. I talked about, where the internal growth could come from, and that maybe there's another level to Zach LaVine's game. Is there any part of you that thinks there is a way to optimize him and get even more than what we've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I wonder what his ideal role is, like more so in terms of like in the pecking order. What is most ideal for Zach LaVine? Like I think as a first option, like I just don't, like we just said, there's levels to it. Like, I don't think he's in the John Morant, Anthony Edwards, Jokic, Steph category, like tier, any of that. To be fair, I don't know if De'Aaron Fox was even really in that category. It felt like he was always kind of scratching the surface of top of the tier before that, but maybe bottom of the first tier. Zach LaVine is not a first option. Even as a second option, it feels like that's asking a lot. We've already seen, through with DeMar DeRozan, like him struggle to get shots off and in the fourth quarter specifically. And I think ideally, if he's your third scoring option, to me, that kind of allows him. It's probably a sixth man role, honestly. I mean, if he's going to be your third scoring option, to me, that almost feels like you're asking him just come in, shoot the ball, be you, and be unapologetic about it. I mean, I think he is a definite top tier scorer for sure. I just don't think I don't see like the natural playmaking ability. I don't see a lot of. It's funny to say I don't see a lot of self-creation because obviously he gets he's incredibly efficient, but the shots he hits are incredibly tough. And I don't feel like he does a good job of creating open looks for himself. And so,
it's his own definition of open.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's very true. Actually,
hey, I'm feeling good right now.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong at all. Every player has their own definition of open, and clearly Zach's is just the smallest window we've maybe ever seen. I think that to me is how you maximize his abilities, but frankly, I do think it's hard with the contract that he makes. Like, I think it's tough when you're paying a guy, and it's not something Doug Christie's thinking about his contract, but when you get paid $50 million, like, that kind of hampers how you build out your roster, right? Like that definitely obviously hampers the players that you can sign around him. Which makes it tough to sign two other better scoring options in front of him. So, with this current Kings team, I think he has to be a scorer. I think he's got to be the guy that we've seen, I don't know, the past 4 or 5 games where he's a threat. Like, I thought it was really key that David Adelman pointed out in his pregame presser. He was like, he mentioned Zach. He didn't mention DeMar. He didn't mention Sabonis. Like, he mentioned Zach's scoring ability as the thing that they had to slow down. And, I think an example of it is Charlotte. Like, I think Zach has the capability to just shoot the other team out. A lot of times with volume shooters, they're going to shoot their team out of the games. Zach has the capability of just single-handedly ending a game because he's so stupidly on fire. And
that plays into the play-in pretty well.
Absolutely. It's built for it, right? Like those one-game play-in situations, you need someone to step up and be unafraid. Zach LaVine is not afraid to put that ball up. And, I think really just embracing his scoring while still being able to function in an offense around him. I think that's the part that the Kings are struggling with the most. We know if we just not force feed Zach, but if we make it a priority to get Zach his shots, that can happen and we can have success. But how do we do that while still making sure the offense is flowing, making sure Keon's still getting looks, making sure now Keegan's coming back? It's always been a struggle for Keegan throughout his career to get consistent shot attempts. Like, can you have Zach LaVine eat while everybody else eats as well? I think that's the part that this team is currently struggling with. And, you hope that a full off season and training camp together can make them at least understand better where they can pick and choose their spots, I guess.
Yeah, you would definitely hope so. Here in the SAC chat, Ahmed Rock, what's up? Saying hi to myself and Chris.
Yes.
And we got Gavin over here. Gavin, I got to say, you got a really interesting spelling of your name. And this is somebody with a unique spelling.
H.
I'm not judging. Yeah, I won't. I'm not gonna out you out here, but yeah, a little bit different. He says, I think he, talking about Zach, the conversation we just had, is a number one scorer if we had a real point guard. Not having a point guard limits our team's offensive flow, which is why Domas really has to be a facilitator. Yeah. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So we talked about the pace earlier. I think that two-man game continuing to develop over these last 4 or 5 games, I feel like we've actually seen dribble handoff actions with Zach and Domas, where, Doug talked about it a little bit of there's just a preference on where these guys like the ball. Like Domas is behind the back passes into a drop. That's going to fit for some people better than others. Or does Zach want to be able to get downhill? Or is he trying to move more along the 3-point line? And that changes the angle of Domas's screens. So I think that the current iteration of this team, that's what you have to do, but it's not the most ideal thing, right? And it doesn't really change if Malik Monk is out there or not, in my mind. You know, he's not the traditional playmaker. He is a really good passer, I would say, but in more of a not the guy that's orchestrating everything. I think that so much of being a great point guard is kind of the mindset of it in my mind,
100%.
and realizing, hey, dude hasn't touched the ball. Like, we got Zach LaVine on this team and DeMar DeRozan, and it's like, okay, DeMar's taken 4 in a row. It's the point guard, to go back to the Chicago comparison, it's the Lonzo Ball to be like, hey, Zach hasn't touched the ball in a sec. I'm going to make sure to go in his direction this time. And I don't think people realize how much the Kings do have. While they are a free-flowing offense, there is a choice on like kind of who you're involving on every single
but there's
play.
Structure, right?
There is, because if Domas gets a board and brings the ball up the floor, and Zach and DeMar sprint to the corners like they're supposed to, not specifically them, but it could be anyone, right? Then it's Domas's choice. Am I going right towards Zach, or am I going left towards DeMar? Whichever side they may be on, and recognizing who has had the touches recently plays into that. And it's just not Malik's mindset. And again, I think so much of this is that you are asking guys to do things that are not naturally themselves. And that's not to say they can't grow and be better. We've seen, I was going to say Keon become better as a point guard, like better,
He's
but we're
more comfortable
still
putting the ball on the deck for sure.
Definitely. But they've tried to like mold him into that, even though that's not his typical skill set, right? And they're seeing that with Devin Carter a little bit, and now Malik. So you're unfortunately forced to ask guys to do things that are maybe not their comfort zones and typically how they would go about their games.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I always use the example of Mike Conley back in the grit and grind days. I heard him interviewed, and he talked about exactly what you were mentioning with Malik. Is it's really just a mindset that a point guard has, that it's what they call intangibles, right? It's something that you just can't teach. You have that in the back of your mind at all times. Like, you know, I think frankly, I think a point guard like Mike Conley, not current Mike Conley, but, you know, a kind of guy who, he's, you know, Mike was always known as the best guy to never be named an all-star. Like, they don't need a mega star to run the show. They just need somebody who understands how to be a point guard, how to set the table. And like you mentioned, like, I remember Mike Conley specifically being like, you know, Rudy Gay was on those grit and grind Grizzlies teams. He was kind of their Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan, where that was their main offensive hub. But Mike would always have to have in mind, hey, Zebo hasn't touched it in a while. And we know Zebo likes to get his looks, gets his touches. Marc Gasol hasn't had his touches. And it's not just about the offensive end either. It's Marc Gasol is incredibly important to what we do on the defensive end. And you can apply that to Keegan. You can apply that to Keon. Yeah. We need them to stay locked in. And Brenden, you know, I was playing softball yesterday, and not a single hit went to left field. And, you know, we have in softball, a lot of people end up hitting it out to left field. So we have our two best you know, defensive players out there. They didn't get a single ball all game. And I think I'm pretty sure they got 2 hits out of 6 at-bats. And I asked my friend after, and he was like, I just wasn't locked in. Like, I just wasn't, you know, like I was standing out in the outfield, didn't really do much. And then next thing I knew, I would be at the plate, and it's almost like being a DH. It's like all you're doing. And so I think you have to keep the guys focused on the offense, or focused on the defensive end, by sometimes feeding them on offense. And I think that's the thing that this team really lacks sometimes. Again, it's just somebody who's constantly thinking, man, Keon's really got it going. I know we would normally go to DeMar here, but feels like this might just be Keon's night, and we should really ride that. So I don't know, just it's definitely something that I think this team has to address in the offseason.
Absolutely. And I think that, funnily enough, you're talking about the Mike Conley comp. Who's the guy that's been compared to Mike Conley? At least ideally, as he gets later in his career, is a little like De'Aaron has gotten a Mike Conley comp. You know,
sure.
you're outlining all these things they need. I'm like, well, they kind of just traded that guy away. So as they continue to try to rework this roster, I think we have a lot of questions about how that may go. But I've just recently had the thoughts of maybe there's a middle ground between not just going all in on we have to win right now, but also not fully tearing it down? Can you just go get some young, already decent guys to where you're not bottom of the pile? Honestly, you're still probably in play-in conversation, but you're increasing your ceiling. We're going to dive into that here on the other side. One more segment with Chris Watkins as myself, Brenden Nunes here, filling in for Allen Stiles. We are live from Tom's Watch Bar. Stay tuned here on Sacktown Sports.
Coverage of the Masters is brought to you by Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
Hi, I'm Justin Gingery from the law firm of Gingery, Hammer and Associates. When you have been injured by the fault of another, you will want advice you can trust. If you know an attorney you can trust, I hope you call that person. But if you don't, please call me. I promise I will be the attorney you can trust, along with my entire team. I have been helping accident survivors recover compensation for their injuries for 25 years, and we can help you. There is no charge for calling. If you have an injury, just call Gingery.
The sewer system. It's probably the last thing on your mind, and that's okay. Because at the Sacramento Area Sewer District, it's our first priority. As the region's largest sewer utility, we own and maintain thousands of miles of sewer pipe. And our job is to get to your sewer problem before it interrupts your life. So whether you've got a slow drain or a backup, call us first, day or night. The Sacramento Area Sewer District. It's a dirty job, but we're happy to do it.
Coach Doug Christie here for your truck headquarters, reminding you that every deal at Folsom Lake Ford is a slam dunk. Shop all your favorite models on sale now, including America's best-selling truck for over 47 years, Ford F-Series, plus a huge selection of Broncos, Bronco Sports, and all of Ford's award-winning SUVs at FolsomLakeFord.com. Listen, I know a great play when I see one, and if you want to save on a new Ford, you gotta drive the lane straight to Folsom Lake Ford in the Folsom Auto Mall. Right now, buy any new Ford with zero down on approval of credit. Save big with low interest financing, and Folsom Lake Ford always pays top dollar for your trade. So hurry to Folsom Lake Ford, a 6-time Triple Crown winner for sales and service excellence. That's why they're my trusted dealer, and they should be yours too. Tell them Coach Doug Christie sent you, or shop them online at FolsomLakeFord.com.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes joining you here live from Doco. We are in Tom's Watch Bar out here as the Sacramento Kings take on the Los Angeles Clippers later tonight. A lot going on. Like we've mentioned, the A's, Juan Soto coming into town. Shout out to Yankees fans. Anybody that may be going out there to throw a little booze. I think Frankie Cardicelli could be part of that, even though, of course, ultimate professional. He would absolutely never. But, deep down, there's got to be a little bit of bitterness there. We always have to give
Frankie?
him a hard
No,
time.
never.
Crazy, right? Yeah, maybe he's jamming out to some Kid Rock trying to cope. That's how I imagine.
That's
that
his
this is all
jam.
going here.
Just watching Juan Soto through it all.
Yeah, can't blame him. I will say it's very fun to root against someone. Like I was thinking about this last night, actually, is, you have the thought of eventually LeBron is coming to the end of his career. And I think of like Kobe, obviously. Like these are guys that I really enjoyed rooting against throughout their careers, but that doesn't mean there's not a level of respect, right? I think it's very fun to have a rival, essentially. And obviously, I know people don't love it. I grew up a little bit of a Celtics fan, so there's that Bron aspect and Lakers. And there's a lot of correlations, actually, in the teams that, I was around the Warriors a lot growing up, and now I'm around the Kings. I know, not fans. Guess what? They all hate the Lakers. That is a consistency that I have had throughout my life for what it's worth. But the Kings trying to figure out how they can continue to climb the Western Conference standings beyond just this year. I think I'm very much a big advocate for we need to look at this long term, that the goal should be an eventual championship. Crazy, right? And Doug Christie says the same things. They say the same things, but it's actions over words, right? And it all seems very much like, hey, we want to get this done right now. So assuming that tanking, strong word, I guess, not whatever, people want to be sensitive about the word tanking, right? Even if it's not that, fully blowing it up and resetting, we'll call it reworking your timeline, I guess, right? With the idea of the hardest thing to acquire is a number one. And I think that the only way you can do that for the Kings is through the draft. Or, people want to point at SGA. That is an outlier. That is like the definition.
You already kind of missed that
outlier.
opportunity as well. Like that would have been the Stephon Castle move.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. And for what it's worth, I don't think San Antonio had Castle on the table, but
Agreed.
Who knows what happens in the offseason if you decide to wait and be patient, and you don't have to trade him to San Antonio just because he wants to go to San Antonio. And yes, he's affecting the market. Dame Lillard, obviously, being the example that we've used a lot. But I just had a thought the other day, Chris, and I've talked to you about this a little bit off air, is there a middle ground of retooling here and probably remaining in like the play-in conversation, I would imagine, even though this could get even more muddied as Portland will be a better team next year. San Antonio, I think, is going to take a big jump next year. Health, obviously, being a big factor there with both of their top guys. But Castle has been playing phenomenally as of late. Harrison Barnes, take that for whatever you will. But I think that is there a middle ground here is an interesting conversation to me. And it all kind of initially came into my mind when these rumors have been becoming more public, I would say, of Denver being at least intrigued by the idea of Zach LaVine, and that Michael Porter Jr. would have been one of the guys that had gone out in that deal. And it's not as black and white to say that that would still be something that Denver would consider, but just in a hypothetical world where that is the case, what do you think about the idea of trading Zach LaVine for somebody like, again, what I think is a middle ground? This isn't a rookie contract. Michael Porter Jr. is already on a max deal, actually, and this is why I think it was even a conversation, because honestly, it's two bad contracts, just to be blunt. But there's an upside, I guess, that you could talk yourself into with Michael Porter Jr. Obviously, the Kings talked themselves into it years ago when they almost considered him instead of Marvin Bagley. So now we're getting to the point where it's really that you're going to end up seeing, can they rework this? And I think that they're going to try to remain competitive. But do you think there is a middle ground? LaVine for MPJ, or can you try and trade Domas for Isaiah Hartenstein and Case and Wallace? And I think that is too kind, right? I don't think this is actually the deals, but just to lay out hypotheticals. Do you think that there's a world where you can increase your ceiling, but also remain in like a play-in sort of battle?
Yeah, for sure. It's a really tough balance. But like you said, we've talked about it a little bit off air. I think that the thing that you want to do, I think more so from a fan, I do think it would help from an actual team building perspective as well. But I do think from a fan perspective, it's just like you want some hope, right? Like you want to feel like, there is a future goal, that you're not just building in the present, but you're also thinking about the future. I kind of do feel like the present team does have a little bit of a hard cap. Like, Sabonis is pushing 30. DeRozan is obviously on the other side of that. Zach LaVine's pushing that as well. Like, I think that there is a world where you could consider, like, they're on pace to finish 500 this year, 41 wins. If you have, let's say, whatever, you do the LaVine for Michael Porter Jr., if you run out, as your mainstays, as the guys you're trying to build with, Keon, Keegan, if you can get Jake LaRavia back in here, I think he's at least been, especially on a team that, again, isn't maybe thinking playoffs is our 100% goal. Like, I think maybe taking a risk on what else does Jake LaRavia have to give. I think that would be intriguing as like a Trey Lyles spot or a Trey Lyles replacement. I feel like that would be where I would like to see this team go, just because it would feel like, to me, let's say you do the opposite, right? Like, let's say that you say, all right, we have Sabonis, we have DeRozan, we have LaVine. Let's try and maximize this window. Maybe we will consider a Keegan Murray trade. Maybe we do think a sign and trade with Keon Ellis or something. If that's where your mind is going, I just don't know how much better you can make this team that's currently now. Now they're pushing on 2 consecutive years of being the 9 seed in the Western Conference after being the 3 seed. like how much higher of a ceiling. And I know Detroit obviously, flipped their record, I think 29 games from last season to this season.
You
but
also have Cade Cunningham.
That's the
hardest part to
team
get.
that is building towards something. I just don't know how much better you can make this 9-seeded team if you try and go, quote unquote, all in, whatever that is. Like, to me, you're maybe back to the point that you were during the Beam team, where you're a fun team. Maybe you win a playoff round or something like that. But to me, the goal for this team needs to be championship. And I don't think you can realistically, like you said at the top, I don't think you can realistically be a championship contender if you don't have a number one option. And I just don't think Domantas Sabonis is a number one option on a NBA Finals team. I don't think Zach LaVine, how he currently plays or how the team is currently constructed, is going to help him be that guy. And, I think DeMar is just on the wrong side of 30 for that. So
who is the number one right now?
I don't think there's a good answer. I mean, it feels like spiritually it's DeMar, right? Like, it feels
spiritually is hilarious, but I get you. I get you for sure.
It's, if you're just talking about who is the guy who, they're going to let him do what he wants because he's their guy, I think it's DeMar. But if you're asking me who's the most talented, who's the best player, who's the prototypical number one, I mean, it's Zach, right? Like, he's 20, he's still under 30 technically. He's a dynamite shooter. He can get to the rim. He's got explosive leaping ability. He's the guy that you would circle for it. But, I don't even know. You could argue Domantas Sabonis is the best player on this team. But I think that's also kind of I wouldn't say it's a problem, but I do think that, again, it just points to they don't have a true number one. It's almost like I don't know. I don't think you watch Game of Thrones, but there's a quote that I love from Game of Thrones that's Joffrey, who's this annoying kid who, his dad dies and he becomes king and all that. And he's always telling people, like, I'm the king, respect me. And there's a great quote of no true king has to say he's a king. And that's how I feel about the number one option. You shouldn't have to ask who the number one option is. You should just know who
it's
the number
if you
one
have two
option
quarterbacks, you don't have one.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I think that's very fair. And, it's going to be interesting to see how the Kings navigate this. Like we mentioned, they have the potential to, I guess, be dangerous in the play-in. They have players that could have huge nights.
That is just, yeah.
They have the potential to be dangerous.
I don't think, it's just, but what is that? Yeah,
Right.
You could be, they could be a scary play-in team. Look out.
They could. Zach, the point being that they have dudes that could drop 40 on any given night.
Great.
So we will see. But Chris,
we'll hang the banner.
Absolutely. Chris, thanks for joining me out here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Anytime at Tom's Watch Bar, I'll be there.
There we go. Appreciate it. We'll enjoy a little bit of food after here as we get you out of here.
Chris started munching? No?
Maybe not quite,
Okay.
but I'm sure that you're going to get that started.
Somebody's
I don't
gotta
blame
do
you.
it, man.
I will
Somebody's
not
gotta
be
do it.
far behind you after we wrap up here at 2:00, where the Drive guys will take you through the rest of the day before pregame. Obviously, as the Kings play the Clippers tonight here in Golden One Center. So be sure to stay tuned into that. On the other side, Kyle and I are going to dive into player grades for the season. And a little tough to figure out who to even include on this list, given all the roster turnover. But we will dive into that here on the other side. Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles out here at Doco, Tom's Watch Bar. Stay tuned on Sacktown Sports.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
It's a myth to think you don't play golf well enough to get fitted for golf clubs. The professionals at the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio would argue that playing the game with golf clubs properly fitted to your body and swing characteristics is the best way to improve your game and have more fun on the golf course. With a professional staff of fitters, all the major brands of equipment, and cutting-edge technology featuring TrackMan, the indoor-outdoor Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio is worth a look. See for yourself. Fulton Avenue at the Cap City Freeway. Schedule your fitting at 916-808-2531. 808-2531.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, the ultimate lunch lineup boasts wall-to-wall sports and scenic views. When you're hungry and in a hurry, the Scratch Kitchen delivers lunch in the clutch. I mean, where else can you order a 29-degree draft beer and a quickie combo on your lunch break? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Twin Peaks Scratch Kitchen scores every time. Dig into hand-smashed burgers, chef-inspired flatbreads, and more at your local lodge.
Come check out Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room with the most variety of table games in the region in a safe and friendly environment. Plenty of well-lit parking available, conveniently located in downtown Sacramento. And remember, Capital Casino has the best food, the best service, and the best action. 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento. For more information, log on to capital-casino.com, and please gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Bonneville International Radio Station contests are open to participants at least 18 years of age and older that are residents of California and who reside in one of the 6 counties that make up the Sacramento metro area, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest are not eligible to win, unless the station otherwise specifies in its own discretion. Persons who have won in the last 30 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. For a copy of the general contest rules, visit KHTK.com.
Bring the whole family to Sutter Health Park for Sacramento River Cats baseball. It's more than a game. It's an experience your kids will never forget. Enjoy exciting action on the field, delicious ballpark food, and fun activities for all ages. From meeting Dinger the mascot to running the bases every Sunday, there's something for everyone. Create lasting memories with your family this season. Get your tickets at rivercats.com.
I love this time of year when the azaleas begin to bloom and the singing birds' sweet dawn chorus remind us that blue skies and sunshine are at hand. Hi, this is Frank LaRosa with a word about Naturewood Home Furnishings. In sports, the definition for the word master is one who's achieved a high degree of skill, and that will be on display in the highly anticipated golf tournament. In the furniture business, a master is a highly skilled craftsman, an artist even, whose work is coveted by those who appreciate design, quality, and durability. John Keyes was the mastermind of Naturewood Home Furnishings. He knew that you wanted your home to reflect your personal style, whether that was a plain coffee table or a masterpiece for you to enjoy forever. That's why when you walk into Naturewood Home Furnishings, you'll find the largest and best selection of the highest quality home furnishings in Northern California. Masterful. Naturewood Home Furnishings, off Highway 50 at Hazel. Look for the water wheel.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sacktown Sports.
I can't help myself with these Chance the Rapper noises when Kyle plays this sort of stuff. I love little ad-libs personally out here. Tom's Watch Bar, Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles. We're out here in Doco, like I said, at Tom's Watch Bar, Sacktown Sports. Between the Chance the Rapper in my ear and I can't even tell quite right now what's playing in Tom's. You're going to have to forgive me if I end up, just going into a little bit of these songs. I can't help myself sometimes. Love me some good Chance the Rapper noises. Quite a fall off, by the way, I gotta say. Love me some old Chance.
It happens. You never know who has one or two good albums and then is just not doing anything since.
Absolutely. And you never know who's going to have one or two good seasons and then not do much since. And obviously that is unfortunately where the Sacramento Kings currently fall into. But as we try to make sense of what has been a ridiculously crazy season, I've heard varying opinions on if people say this is the craziest year they've been a part of or not when it comes to all the people that work in this, right? And like I said, varying answers, but I think the fact that there are a handful of yeses says a lot, especially when one of those is G-Man saying that this is probably the I forget his wording, but he said essentially that this is definitely, unequivocally was the word, the craziest season that he has been a part of. So we're going to attempt to grade the performance of different players on Sacramento's roster here. Kyle, I got this idea because later, a little further down in our rundown, you and Allen did this in the middle of the season, correct?
We did it after the All-Star game. So that week where there weren't games, but the All-Star game was over. We did grades, and I kept them so that we could revisit them at the end of the season.
There we go. Well, I'm sure that you and Allen will get the chance to do that. So maybe I shouldn't go into your guys' grades. I'll save that for you guys. But we can we can create our own a little bit here, or if you'd like to save your end of it for Allen, your call.
This is our show. I'm not
There
going
we
to
go.
gatekeep information here to the people.
There we go.
If
And it's
Allen
not like
wants,
we don't repeat ourselves.
oh, never. I would never do that.
Absolutely.
It's all original up here, 20 hours a week. No, just because Allen's not here doesn't mean this isn't the Allen Stiles Show. We can't just have a good time.
It's true. It is very true. So I guess first question, and by the way, anybody in the SAC chat here, text line 916-339-1140, let us know your grades as we go through all of this as well. Kyle, do we include De'Aaron Fox on this? Do we save that for later? Like some of these guys should I'm kind of thinking not. I think we just go into the current guys.
It's a feel good Friday. I don't want people yelling at me.
Fair enough. I'm sure that we both get that.
I have a lot of thoughts. I just don't want people yelling at me for talking about De'Aaron Fox.
Understandably, very much so. So let's start with Malik Monk then. I think that's an interesting one. He's had a intriguing season. We've mentioned all the turnover that's happened on this team and the changing roles and the different iterations, the Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox. There's Doug Christie and De'Aaron Fox. There's Doug Christie and Zach LaVine, obviously where we are currently at. And then, they were working in Jonas Valanciunas, Jake LaRavia throughout the course of this season as well, which is made for, specifically the De'Aaron trade, I think made for an interesting season for Malik Monk. Obviously, after De'Aaron gets moved on from, Malik Monk ends up moving into that starting lineup and plays point guard for this team, which, as we talked about with Chris Watkins, I don't think is the optimized Malik Monk role. I think that he is a amazing Lou Williams, a Jamal Crawford, really one of those elite six men that also closes games. That is still where I think we are at with Malik Monk, but with how much his role has changed, I mentioned him moving into that starting lineup, and then he got moved back out of it, and they went towards Keon Ellis. So an extremely weird season for Malik here, as over the first, as I try to break this down into different segments, let's see, Mike Brown got fired after the Detroit game. So up to that point, right? This is the wrong Detroit game, actually.
That was December 26th.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, December 26th was when Mike Brown the 27th was the day he got fired. Remember when we were on the air together when that happened? That was a crazy day.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I missed Mike Brown's last press conference. I'll never get over it, but no big deal. 24 games that Malik played during that time, as he also was inactive for a little bit of stretch there. 36 games total for the Kings. But those first 24 under Mike Brown, right? Malik Monk averaging just under 30 minutes, 29.8. We have 15.7 points, 4.7 assists on 44% from the field, 35% from three. Now, if we take that stretch and we go, while De'Aaron was still here until eventually he was traded for Zach LaVine, that is 16 games played for Malik Monk over that stretch, 35 minutes per game, 21.5 points, 7.5 assists, 46% from the field, just under 30% from three. And the very final portion of the season that we are currently in with both Doug Christie and Zach LaVine, 25 games played for Malik Monk over that stretch, where he's averaging 31 minutes, 15.8 points, 5.1 assists on 31% from three, 42% from the field. In total this season, Malik Monk is averaging 17.2 points. We have 5.6 assists on 43% from the field and 32.5% from three. Geez, I don't think I quite realized that the total number had been down that much. So I feel like we do have to obviously consider all these circumstances in these grades, but I think that Malik is maybe the one that this gets the toughest for. And I feel like I'm a hard grader for what it's worth. I'm going to be very stingy in general, and anytime I've done these sort of things. And C is average, is how I'm working here for what it's worth.
Okay.
So I think that I am going probably a C minus for Malik. I think that this year has maybe just a C. Like there have been some disappointments, but again, circumstances considered, I think that he may be the most confusing one to try and grade here.
Well, here's the other layer to it, is that you just broke up his season into 3 separate sections, kind of correlating with the 3 different eras of this team, right? There was the Mike Brown with Fox, there was Christie with Fox, and then there was Christie with the interim beam team since then. We could even take that a step further because you have in the first, what you said, 24 games he played of the season with Mike, you have 13 games in which he was coming off the bench, 11 games where he's the starter in that mix. Malik Monk has been put in so many different situations, and this is what I talked about at the All-Star break and throughout the season. I'm willing to give him grace because they have not put him in a position to succeed. Has he succeeded this season? A lot less than we would have liked him to, I would say. He's had his moments, but it has been, I would say, a suboptimal season for Malik Monk, but they also have not put him in a position to succeed at very many turns throughout the season, moving him from the 6th-man role to the starting role to firing the coach to then having him be the starting point guard to then deciding, no, we don't really need you as the starting point guard anymore, to then moving him back to the bench. You have multiple injuries mixed in the whole thing. It's just been a difficult season for his role and the team putting him in a position to do what Malik Monk does best. So for all of those reasons, it's probably a little lower than the B+ I gave him at the All-Star break, but I'm willing to extend some grace just based on those extenuating circumstances.
I think that's fair. I think that maybe you've even talked me into I went from C- to C+ here slowly throughout the process.
Some harsh grader.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think that he embraced the different roles is more so what I was thinking while you were laying through all that. And for what it's worth, I think there's a lot of, I've heard a lot of behind the scenes questions about, is he really okay with coming off the bench? Obviously he's been vocal and not shy about saying, I want to be a starter, but there's a difference between wanting to be a starter and not being okay with coming off the bench. And I think there are questions surrounding that with Malik Monk, if it is something he's actually okay with, specifically long-term, right? Does he want to eventually be a consistent starter in this league? Which I think a lot of players do, understandably so. But again, I think that he can really fill into that Lou Williams role. I really think he's that talented where he could be a multi-time 6-man of the year candidate, but tough circumstances for him so far. Kyle, you warned me that this was potentially going to run a little longer than maybe what I was expecting, and we got through one player in this one segment. So we'll see what else we get through here. Maybe we end up just going through starters, but we're going to continue our grades here. On the other side, the guy that Malik Monk has been swapping with in that starting role more often than not, Keon Ellis, who, a little bit of a spoiler, he's going to be up there with grades, I think. Is Keon the best grade that we're going to give out? Stay tuned and see here as Brenden Nunes here filling in for Allen Stiles live from Tom's Watch Bar in Doco, Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture with daily use.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-902-5454. 800-902-5454.
Attention! Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-717-9090. 800-717-9090. Again, that's 800-717-9090.
If you've been looking for an SUV that combines luxury, comfort, and off-road capability, look no further than the most awarded SUV ever, the Jeep Grand Cherokee at Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. With 470 foot-pounds of torque, a 6,000-pound towing capacity, great gas mileage, the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee at Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is the perfect SUV for all your needs. See for yourself why people are coming from all over to Sacramento Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Centrally located across from Hagan Oaks Golf Course, it's the place where a handshake still means something.
Spring has sprung, and now is the best time to spruce up your home. Between spring cleaning and evaluating your home, it is the perfect time to reach out to the folks at the Overhead Door Company of Sacramento. Jason Ross here, and I'm so glad we did. We reached out, and we're now about a month in to our brand new garage doors. Now, first off, we improved our curb appeal. They look great, and it's one of the first things people notice when they approach your home. A new, modern, stylish garage door can improve the overall appearance of your home, just like it did for us. Also, how about this for a nice benefit? The return of investment. A new garage door is high on the return of investment home improvement project list. It's one of the more cost-effective upgrades you can make to improve your home's value. Hey, see for yourself. Check out their products. Go to the showroom at 6756 Franklin Boulevard and ask about the Sacktown Sports Special. Overhead Door Company of Sacramento, the genuine, the original overhead door. Always look for the red ribbon logo.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service. We're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Spring is in the air, and there's really nothing better than hitting the open road in a new Honda. Whether you're shopping for new or pre-owned, Stockton Honda has the selection and savings. Plus, get top dollar for your trade. And while life's roads are often filled with bumps, buying from Stockton Honda couldn't be smoother. Wherever the road you travel might lead, Stockton Honda is happy to get you there. Come in today or go to StocktonHonda.com.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, the Scratch Kitchen delivers lunch in the clutch. I mean, where else can you order a 29-degree draft beer and a quickie combo on your lunch break? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes, once again, filling in for Allen Stiles here. We are live at Tom's Watch Bar here in Doco, staring at the Golden One Center, as it looked like there may be some event here a little bit earlier today. Thought that I saw a reporter buddy of mine walking around, but I could just be seeing things out here. Little bright day, looking some beautiful sunshine out here in Sacramento. You're listening to Sacktown Sports 1140. Looks like Jamal Murray has been upgraded to questionable tonight as the Denver Nuggets take on the Memphis Grizzlies. That is a huge game taking place tonight, and there's plenty of big games that are going to be going on here that we'll dive into a little bit later in the show. But on the other side, you heard us give Malik Monk a grade for his season somewhere in the C range. Once again, I think that C is about average. All right, that's how I'm typically going about my grades here. And it's tough circumstances for Malik, like we mentioned, that makes it tricky to quite evaluate the season that he's had. But I think that the most consistent player on this team, and we'll get to other guys that are part of that conversation, but Keon Ellis, who is the one that typically is starting in place of Malik Monk when they are just, finagling with that lineup. Keon in 78 games played this season. Wow, he's only missed 2 games then, huh? That's impressive within itself.
Wait, isn't one of those also the doghouse game where he just got benched, or do they say that
it
counts?
Might be. That sounds about right. I don't have it directly in front of me. I don't know if you might be able to pull it up while I'm talking here. But 78 games played, 24.2 minutes for Keon Ellis throughout this season, and he has averaged 8.4 points. Obviously not out there necessarily to be a scorer, but what does stand out is 43.6% from 3 is phenomenal. I want to say that unless numbers have changed over the last couple of days, he was right there in top 5 of 3-point percentage with Zach LaVine leading the way. I believe it went, last I had seen, Zach LaVine, Harrison Barnes, and then Keon Ellis. 3 Kings legends, I guess you could say. But 43.6% from 3. Also 1.5 steals per game. As you break that into wins, starters starting and coming off the bench, though, 26 games starting for Keon, where he puts up 31.1 minutes, by the way. When he comes off the bench, 20.7. Obviously, Kings fans have been advocating for him to get more run out there, but not a drastic difference in any of the numbers. 10 points as a starter compared to 7.5 coming off the bench. 45% from 3 as a starter, 42.7 coming off the bench. The steals, though, 2.2 as a starter, 1.2 coming off the bench. Obviously, that 10, 11-minute difference in how much he's playing out there definitely does factor in. But I think that Keon has been as consistent as you can ask for this team. Chris pointed out earlier, how it can be a little bit tough for these defensive first guys when they're not getting the ball to stay engaged. Keon's not one of those guys. Keon knows what his role is. And it's so funny. I honestly don't feel like he's the greatest interview because I think he's so instinctual out there, right? It's not, I'm thinking about all these different things. And obviously don't get me wrong, he's reading scouting reports. He is going through a thought process while he's out there, but it seems like so much of it is instinctual. And I think that's what makes him a great defender. And he's done that consistently. I think there are stretches where you're asking him to be a little bit too much of a point guard. And I remember Houston hounding him while he tries to bring the ball up the floor. That may have even been last year. He has his shortcomings, but I think this is all relative to expectations coming into the year and keeping in mind just who these players are. I mean, you have to go at least in the B's, if not A, for the season that Keon Ellis has had. And like B+, A- is sort of the range that I'm in here, Kyle.
So first of all, he has been active for every game this year. His only 2 games not played were coaches' decisions, DNPs.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. I would say expectations are everything with Keon. We talked yesterday at the end of the show. Matt Issa over at Forbes had some data basically saying what are the best contracts in the NBA this year based on relative value. And Keon's been one of the top 10 contracts of any non-rookie scale deal in the NBA because, again, of the expectation that he's a minimum contract guy, a former G Leaguer who was coming off the bench and then became a starter, and everything that he's given you feels like it's been found money. And so I think the expectation makes people feel like, hey, we weren't expecting as much from Keon Ellis this year, and he's given us more than what we expected since Doug Christie's taken over. He's become a starting caliber 2 guard who playing defense in the NBA, and I think that expectations are everything. So yeah, I would say even though the numbers are not, dramatically different than a Malik Monk, I would say expectation is everything, and his defense has just been excellent. So I would say yes, Keon Ellis probably deserves one of the highest grades you're gonna give out on the team this season. I don't know whether that's a B+, an A-, an A, an A+, but he's got to be right up there in terms of the best, not player, but the best player relative to expectation.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to settle on a solid A. I will say I'm not an A+ guy. To me, A+ is a perfect, right? And so it's very hard to reach A+. Again, I'm going to be a little stingy with my grades here, but I think an A is solid for Keon. And it's funny you mentioned the contract thing, right? Last year, they converted his 2-way deal to a 3-year, $5.1 million deal, which also included, it's prorated based on what he had already been paid in games that had been played in that first year. So he ends up making $683K last season, $2.1 million this year, and $2.3 million club option next year. The funny thing here that I don't know how much I've seen it mentioned is that I think part of the reason of him being a deal is because that was a steal of a contract for the Kings. And I think that he moved on from his agent in the middle of this season and found a new one, I'm assuming, because you're looking at the other contracts around the league and you're like, wait, this is all I got? And I have a team option, not a player option on this next one. So, I think that he has easily outperformed that, which is a compliment to everything that he's been able to accomplish throughout the course of this season, obviously. And I think we're only going to get through the starters here as we approach the 1:30 mark, where we are going to have my guy Brian Zillum joining us, who covers the Dallas Mavericks, to get a little bit of perspective on Luca's return. And obviously, this is the matchup that the Kings are locked into. It is TBD if they will be hosting or if they will be going to, I believe it's American Airlines Center over there in Dallas.
That's what it used to be.
Is it not anymore?
I just haven't checked in a while.
Okay. That's always a funny one, right? Like, I'm trying to think what changed recently. Obviously, Staples to Crypto. But I want to say that, is it Target Center that changed names?
In Minnesota?
Yeah.
I'll look it up. But also Dallas is still American Airlines.
Okay. But yeah, it's always funny when teams change their stadium names and you got to get accustomed to some of these new ones. But doesn't matter what stadium Keon is in. I think that what you are getting consistently from that guy. And I don't think that we're going to end up grading De'Aaron Fox. I don't think we're going to grade Zach LaVine. He hasn't been on the Kings that long. And we've mentioned the weird circumstances with everything that's gone on. So we're not far from a break, but I don't think that we're going to get to Zach LaVine or De'Aaron Fox. I kind of want to go to, we said a C to C. We'll go C+ for Malik Monk here. Keon Ellis, I went with a solid A. Maybe on the other side, we can get to DeMar DeRozan. I want to get to Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis. I don't know how to feel about maybe doing Devin Carter. I know you guys gave him incomplete when you did it earlier in the year, and he's played a lot more now than he has then. He may have not even played at all up to that point previously.
I think he played like 6 games.
Yeah, tough one. And even so far, I don't know. Do you feel like you could accurately grade Devin Carter? Is it fair to?
My opinion is that if you're picked between, say, pick 10 and pick 25, your rookie year just doesn't matter in the NBA. Like, if you can get production by year 3 or 4, that's when I feel like I can accurately evaluate you. And it's different for Carter because he's obviously 22. I'm just like, your rookie years when you're that mid first round pick are so hard to evaluate.
Very fair. I will say we are going to grade the coaching staff and front office. I guess we got to grade the coaching staff separately. That's a weird one as well. But I don't think the front office was very aware that Devin Carter had these injuries going on at the time of the draft. I had heard that he had a promise earlier in the draft, and that ended up not playing out the way that he had expected. And the teams below that promise may not have gotten the best medical on him. So it's a tough situation to be in when obviously you see a guy falling in the draft and it's like, oh, we really like his talent. What's going on here? But I'm not sure that they were fully aware of the extent of how much time Devin Carter may be missing because, I think De'Aaron Fox really wanted wings on this team. And you got Dalton Connect and Tristan Da Silva sitting right there. I was a fan of the Devin Carter pick at the time. That's not to say that I didn't prefer Dalton Connect a little bit, but I like Devin. I like what he brings. This is also prior to me being aware of the shoulder injuries going on, and he's had surgery on both of his shoulders, by the way. The other one was previously in his career. Not exactly sure off the top of my mind exactly when that was, but obviously the most recent one that he had surgically repaired this offseason as well factors into that. And I think it makes it hard to give him a grade. So I don't think we're going to grade Zach LaVine. I don't think we're going to grade De'Aaron Fox, Jonas Valanciunas, Devin Carter, or Kevin Huerter, for example. But definitely going to dive into the grade that we have for DeMar DeRozan here on the other side as he continues to climb the all-time scoring list as a member of the Sacramento Kings here. Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles out here at Tom's Watch Bar. in Doco. Stay tuned on the other side to hear the rest of our grades here on Sacktown Sports 1140.
Every day when we're on the road, people around us endanger themselves and others by looking at their phones while driving. There's the sneaker peeker who darts their eyes between the road and their texts, or the nightlighter who illuminates their car after dark. If that's you, reconsider before you find yourself becoming the fender bender-er, the got a ticket-er, or worst of all, the driver who killed someone. Put the phone away or pay. Paid for by NHTSA.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Spring is here, and that means gigantic savings for all your oil change needs at Jiffy Lube today. Get a $25 gift card with the purchase of any Pennzoil Platinum full synthetic oil change through May 31st at your local Jiffy Lube service center in the greater Sacramento areas. And don't forget about the additional $30 off online coupon at jiffylube.com. Terms apply. Valid email address required. See pennzoil.com/rewards for details. Jiffy Lube, a huge spring savings for you today.
I'm Ken Korak with your Green and Gold Report, brought to you by Comcast Business, powering possibilities. Well, there's nothing more exciting for a team than to see the potential of a #1 pick come to fruition. Now, we know it's early, it's just after 11 games, but Tyler Soderstrom from Turlock High was #3 in the American League in batting at .381 and tied for first in homers with 6. And Jacob Wilson, #4 in batting at .366. Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business with reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solution, and Wi-Fi backup. Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. For details on special offers, including free professional installation and up to a $500 Visa prepaid card on qualifying internet bundles, log on to business.comcast.com. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
What's going on? We're talking to Chad Hoblet of Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Woodland. Chad, what's happening for the Jeep Celebration event?
I'm excited about this, or should I say my wife is. $20,000 off MSRP on the brand new 2025 Jeep Wagoneer S. She had a chance to drive one, and she loves it. And I've not heard from anyone who doesn't love their new Wagoneer. And we have a great selection and more on the way.
I will admit, I sat in one, and it feels very luxurious.
It's nice having such a great option to help get the family wherever they need to go. And if you're looking for something else, we have you covered there, too. People love our new certified pre-owned Supercenter with over 200 vehicles available and over 50 under $20,000.
Whatever you need, you can get it at Hoblet. Search, select, and save through their whole inventory at HobletDodge.com. Unbeatable prices, unbeatable selection. Nobody beats Hoblet, period.
20,000 total net savings after 14,000 factory rebates and 6,000 dealer discounts. Rebates include 7,000 CDJ federal tax credit offered by third party and subject to change without notice. Consult tax professional for eligibility. Through this net savings, sample VIN 562-884. See dealer for details.
What if your business could see beyond what is and into what can be? What if you could create more impact in every decision? What if you had a partner as visionary as you are? With Bank of America, you get access to our trusted experts, real-time insights, and digital tools. So whether you run a local shop or a global enterprise, you're backed by business solutions to make every move matter. What would you like the power to do? Find out how at bankofamerica.com/banking for business. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank sponsor of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do is give my office a call. I will send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free info kit. 800-990-1551. That's 800-990-1551.
KHDK HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Sacktown Sports 1140.
Good afternoon, Sacramento. My name is Kyle Ledbetter, and this is your 2025 Masters Update. Justin Rose is the leader in the clubhouse at 8 under par. Bryson DeChambeau has wrapped up his round. He's in second place at 7 under. Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler are tied for third at 6 under par. This Masters Update and all your Masters coverage is brought to you by Naturewood Home Furnishings, where it's all about choices and always about quality.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes, Sacktown Sports out here in Doco. We're looking at Golden One Center from inside of Tom's Watch Bar out here. If anybody wants to happen to stop by, say hello. Sacramento obviously host the LA Clippers later tonight. Keegan Murray available after missing 3 games. Malik Monk and Jake LaRavia are out. While on LA's side, Norm Powell, Avika Zubac are questionable. Nick Batum and Patty Mills are out. I gotta say, Kyle, excuse me. We were just looking at it. I was just texting Allen, so got a little mixed up there. I forgot Patty Mills was on this team. I forget what trade may have brought him over. Or maybe they signed him as a free agent after he got waived from a different
No, I believe it was the PJ Tucker salary dump that led him to... How did PJ Tucker... I'm trying to remember how he got...
He got waived from wherever he got traded to and then signed with the Knicks, I believe, right?
Yeah, but he was like on Utah and then... But he went from like the Clippers to Utah to like Miami, and then he was in the Davion trade. But I guess that would have had to have been the Jimmy Butler trade, I guess, that landed him in Miami. I don't know exactly how it worked out, but all I know is that Patty Mills ended up a Clipper from a PJ Tucker salary dump.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see how they can battle tonight as the Kings and Clippers face off here, like I said, in Golden One Center. If the Kings get a win, or if the Dallas Mavericks lose to the Toronto Raptors, who they host in what we confirmed to still be called American Airlines Center earlier today, then the Kings will they will secure the 9th seed, therefore being the hosting team for that first play-in game, which they will play the Dallas Mavericks no matter what at this point. But before we dive into again, having my buddy Brian come on the show at 1:30 here in about half an hour to break down, trying to make sense of what the heck has been going on with the Dallas Mavericks, Luca's return, and how they are feeling heading into this play-in game. But we were giving grades on the other side and settled on Malik Monk with a C+. Again, this is all relative to expectations and understanding that Malik wasn't exactly dealt the fairest hand. To be honest, you're going to be able to say that about every single person on this team. And again, Malik Monk gets a C+. Keon Ellis, who I think has been one of the most malleable players in the NBA this year, specifically for this Sacramento team, we ended up getting an A as they instead of playing Beyonce in the background. I'm not sure if you can hear any of this. All the single ladies, and there don't seem to be any out here in Tom's for what it's worth.
I couldn't hear it, and then I'm like really trying to listen, and I can hear it if I really focus in.
Yeah, I may break out into dance here. Who knows? But DeMar DeRozan over here as well, somebody that I want to be the next to give a grade to. Kyle, you're absolutely killing it in there for anybody on the YouTube side. DeMar this season, as you know, like to start with just the basic counting numbers, even though of course they do not tell the entire story. DeMar has played in 75 games this year. He's another player like Keon who is just constantly available. This is going to be the 4th season in a row where he has played upwards of 74 games. Extremely available. And, you know, the cliche, the best ability is availability. And DeMar at 35 years old continues to climb the all-time scoring list because he's one of the most available players really in NBA history. Is a little kind because Wilt averaged, I think it's Wilt who averaged more than 48 minutes a game. So if we're going all the way back, maybe it's a little bit different, but in his 75 games played so far with Sacramento. 22.5 points for DeMar DeRozan, 4.4 assists, just under 4 rebounds on 48% from the field, 33% from three, and of course 85% from the free throw line on 5.8 attempts a game. Looking at this, the last time that he was at 5.8 free throw attempts or less, if we go year by year and obviously inverse order, 5.8 free throw attempts per game this season, 7.7 last year, 7.1 the year before, 7.8 in his first year with Chicago. His last year with San Antonio, 7.2. The year prior, 6.6. And then you go back to his first year with San Antonio, 2018-19, which doesn't sound that far away, in my mind at least. But what, that's like 7-8 years now?
2018 is 7 calendar years ago.
That is insane, by the way, to me. Maybe I'm just starting to reach the point where
we're all getting old,
a
Brennan.
little older. I know, yeah, it's crazy, Kyle. If you and I are feeling older, I can't imagine how some of these other people feel. No way.
There's no. I was in high school when DeMar DeRozan got traded.
The Toronto trade?
Yes, I was going into my senior year of high school when DeMar DeRozan got traded to the Spurs for Kawhi.
Were you awake?
It
was late at night.
I was not awake for it. The one I do remember, it was after I graduated. I remember I was asleep and my brother woke me up in the middle of the night, was like, Kawhi and Paul George just landed with the Clippers. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm going back to sleep now.
There we go. Even as SDSU guy, no, you're not holding on to Kawhi like that?
I mean, I cared, but not enough to be woken up at 10:40 at night.
Fair enough. Well, DeMar, all-time NBA scorer, obviously makes his way to California's capital this past offseason, ends up signing a deal with the team, and we just laid through his numbers. A little down compared to some of his previous years, but obviously I would say that there's more surrounding talent on this team than he had on his previous ones. And again, same thing we've had to say for all these other guys. He's seen many iterations of this team, and I think that he has tried to be malleable. But the tough thing here is, like I mentioned, he is 35 years old, and DeMar DeRozan is an extremely successful player. This man is a future Hall of Famer, no questions asked. And so he's specifically the one where I'm talking about the Kings putting guys in roles that are maybe not the most conducive to their skill set. DeMar should have been like the obvious one in my mind. Like, you know who DeMar DeRozan is and what he's going to do. How he's going to fit with Domas, maybe a different question, right? Vucevic is a different player. Some of the other bigs he's played with, you go back to Jonas, and did he get a little bit of Marc Gasol? No, I think Marc Gasol ended up joining that first year with Kawhi in Toronto, but having a handful of bigs, I don't think he's ever had a big as talented as Domantas Sabonis, obviously. So there's the adjustment there, but I don't know. I think the main critique people are going to point to is when he gets very much in, hey, this is my time, and the ball movement slows down. And I mentioned plenty of times that I think this team is best when they're playing with pace, and that's not the most conducive to, I think, DeMar DeRozan's strengths, which obviously play into this a decent amount. So it's another one that's really tough to grade. I think you have to say it's been disappointing, though, relative to expectations, at least a little below that like C mark, not overwhelmingly like, what the heck are you doing out there? Because again, you should know who DeMar DeRozan is. And I think asking him to not be this mid-range ISO elite scorer is a little bit wrong. And some of that has to go on the team, which will factor into the front office and coaching grade as we eventually reach. But I think I'm going about C- for DeMar, which again, to me being average. So just slightly below what I think relative expectations were coming into this season.
So I think you were spot on about the unfair role part of it, because when he signed, it was this interesting situation where he was a number 2 scoring option, but the third best player, by proxy of Domas being this excellent player who is not a score first player. He doesn't always have to have the ball in his hands shooting to make an impact. Where I think it went wrong was the plan after the Fox trade to make him essentially the number 1 scoring option for a month and a half, and now they've kind of got him playing some point guard or at least bringing the ball up at times. It's like, we know what that is for DeMar. We know what the game is for DeRozan. The rest of the league was telling you he's not a number 1, because if he was, the Bulls would have paid him $40 million on this last contract, or someone would have offered him more than essentially a 2-year $50 million contract. So the fact that they've now asked him to be the number one is kind of like, and I know LaVine has kind of taken that on a little bit recently, but it's like, we know what that game is. Since the Toronto trade, this is his 7th season. They've made DeMar DeRozan teams have made the playoffs twice and won 4 total playoff games over the last 7 years. We kind of know what this game is with DeRozan at this point. So again, I think just role was not the best post De'Aaron Fox trade.
I would say the same, and it makes it a very tough evaluation because I think that he has tried to embrace the roles, like you've mentioned, the being a point guard thing. I think that he has fully leaned into that, and I don't know if excelled is the right word, but embraced it more than anything. So maybe about a C. It's a tough one because it feels like a lot of his grade and the shortcomings should probably be faced more towards the front office because he signed pretty late into free agency. And I think that means a couple things. That means that if the Kings were in love with him, they go get him right away, right? And maybe they did try. But the fact that DeMar waits means that either it's one of the two, and maybe both, that the Kings weren't in love with the idea where they didn't chase it at first, or DeMar wasn't in love with the idea. And I think the latter is definitely true, that he had to be talked into it more than anything. The former, more of a question of, was the front office set on like, hey, this is specifically the way we want to go? Or was it, we have to do something, and DeMar is better than Harrison Barnes, which I've genuinely had the question in my mind throughout the course of this year, Kyle, of would this team be better with Harrison Barnes than DeMar DeRozan? This is still when Zach was on the team.
Offensively, no. Defensively, yes.
Yeah, it's a weird scenario. Obviously, the lack of wings, and now we're talking about a lack of guards. And so if DeMar wasn't the point guard, who would you be going to? So definitely a two-sided conversation here, but I think I'm going to go with about a C. Maybe I'm going to retract my minus here and say, nah. I'm gonna keep the C minus. I think it was a little bit disappointing relative to expectations. I think it's hard to say that DeMar did exactly what like people had in mind.
I had been talking you up on these last ones. You stuck to your guns this time.
I think I'm going to stick around on this one. We're going to go C minus, but understanding that is not necessarily all DeMar DeRozan's fault with some unfair circumstances. In the next segment here, we're going to rush through 2 of them. We're going to fit 2 different people in here with Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, and maybe we'll just also throw the front office in there. We'll leave the coaching staff out, but we'll bust out 3 of these between Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, and the front office for our final trades before we reach to Brian to talk about the Dallas Mavericks. But just to recap really quick, we currently have a C+ for Malik Monk, and C being about average. Keep that in mind. Keon Ellis gets an A. DeMar DeRozan, we're going with a C- on the other side. We will get to Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis in the front office grades as you're listening to Brenden Nunes here filling in for Allen Stiles. We are live at Tom's Watch Bar here in Doco, Sacktown Sports.
Time to check out Capital Casino, conveniently located at 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
With Progressive, renters can save on protection for the things that make your place yours, even things that don't make sense to everyone.
People always wonder why I don't get rid of my guitar since I never play. But it's like, what if I actually end up taking lessons? Sure, I've had it for 8 years, but if I get rid of it, then what will my New Year's resolution be next January?
Exactly. So bundle your renters and auto and save with Progressive and protect the things that make sense to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers not available in all states or situations covered subject to policy terms and conditions.
Hey, fellow Gen Xers, it's Elizabeth Banks. Big news. The recommended age for pneumococcal pneumonia vaccination has been lowered to 50 and older, even if you're healthy. It's up to us to lead the charge. After all, we gave the world the internet. We're trailblazers. Let's lead the way again because we are at over 6 times greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Gen X, this is our shot. Head to vaxassist.com and schedule today. That's vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Allen Stiles
You can join the show by texting 916-339-1140.
on Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes here live at Tom's Watch Bar in Delco. Got Golden One Center here right in front of me, filling in for our guy Allen Stiles today. I can't help myself with all these intros, these beats. It's obviously a Katy Perry song, but I swear I'm just now realizing that this feels sampled in the Drake song that everybody loves, that Nokia song. Maybe I shouldn't say everybody loves. I'm not exactly the biggest fan of that song myself, but found myself for half a sec thinking that's what was going on here, and then obviously being well aware that this is more Katy Perry.
Yes, this is last Friday night because it's Friday, everybody.
I probably should have pieced that together. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, we are continuing our grades. We're going to rush through some of these final ones, just kind of going through some of the starters or guys that have been in and out of the starting lineup throughout the course of this season. And again, going to be a little bit harsh with some of these grades and going off C being average. C is you performed up to your expectations, right? So keep that in mind. We went I went C+ for Malik Monk, an A for Keon Ellis, and I went C- for DeMar DeRozan, although keep in mind, not the greatest circumstances, I would say, for him to excel. Next up, we got Keegan Murray here on this list, who obviously going into his third NBA season, 24 years old currently, was an interesting year. We've seen him develop into a phenomenal defender and also take another step as a rebounder throughout the course of this season, but the three-point shooting is pretty close to what we saw at his last year, 41% his rookie year, 35.8% last season, and now 34.8% this year. But scoring numbers are down, 12.5 points compared to 15.2 the year prior. So it's interesting. He's also taking like 1.5 to 2 less shots going on here. So it's another one of those where it's weird circumstances. But I don't think it's unfair to say that you probably would have liked to see a little bit more from Keegan Murray this year. Again, relative to expectations, and C being you met them, I'm going to go C- for Keegan. I think that you wanted to see him take another step in as a scorer, and he had a couple big games, but really, I don't have the number in front of me. He hasn't surpassed 20 many times throughout the course of this season relative to what you would have expected. So I'll probably go C-. You're encouraged by the defensive growth for sure and some of the rebounding and physicality, but seeing him take another step offensively, I think would have been huge for this team. As we've talked about, they don't have many internal growth routes.
So because Keegan Murray is my favorite player and because I will defend him and his contract extension, I'll just give you my best case scenario for Keegan, which is since the numbers for the season are going to look bad because you'll remember he was just missing open threes a bunch earlier in the season. But since Doug took over, he's shooting 47% from the field on 11 attempts per game. He's shooting 39% from three on 6.3 attempts per game, which is higher average and closer to his shots per game. Obviously, we talk about the defense with him. Number would be 13.2 points per game, which is down, although they will openly admit they're not able to get Keegan into his rhythm. So with the opportunities he's given, he's been better, stronger, attacking to the basket. I think he's just got to work one more go-to offensive move in his bag, and I think you have a third scoring option potentially who gives them best defense on the team. But that's my best case scenario for Keegan.
I think it's fair. Again, it's all sort of relative here and pros and cons to his season. Growth in some areas and I guess regression in some other areas with circumstances obviously factoring in here. Next one, Domantas Sabonis, who I think has had a very, very good season, especially statistically, as he always puts up ridiculous numbers. The 28-year-old, not far from being 29, by the way. 19.1 points this year, 13.9 rebounds, leading the league once again for the third straight year, and it is also his career high in rebounds. 10.1 defensive, also leading the league like he did last year. He also got 6.1 assists in there. That is notably down from the 8.2 in the year prior, but maybe the biggest growth would be 40% from three for Domantas Sabonis on 2.2 a game. Last year, 37.9% on 1.1 a game. So you've seen a lot of growth there. And I think what we mentioned of him trying to work in and acclimate some of these other guys as he's a player that makes his teammates so much better, but that takes knowing their tendencies has been a little weird. I'm going to go, it's somewhere in the B range for probably like a B plus for Domas.
Yeah, I think even though his numbers are going to look similar to last year, I think he's not going to be an All-NBA player this year. I think there are both just Karl Anthony Towns making that extra leap, but also your Evan Mobleys and your Jalen Williams and guys who didn't make the team last year are probably going to push Domas out of the list. But I would say, I guess the expectation changed, but he's essentially having as good of a season as he did last year.
I would agree. I'm going to settle on like a B plus, somewhere in that range, as we're kind of doing a little bit of a quick run through some of these. The one other one I want to get to is the front office. Lowest grade I've given so far is a C-, and I can tell you right now it's going to be lower than that. The way that the De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown situation was handled, I don't think was the greatest thing, to say the least. You can say that De'Aaron put them in a tough situation, and I think that is fair, but I don't think they did themselves any favors. Like I mentioned with Chris earlier, I think that De'Aaron would have played through this season, and sure, that may have been hanging over your head, but now you have something entirely different hanging over your head, and you still have to figure out the answers this offseason. It's kind of harsh. It's definitely a D. I think D-. It's really tough, and like I personally, I feel really bad. This is probably this is close to an F. I'm not going to lie. This is a very tough season, but I'll go D because there's still a world where this gets saved, where Zach LaVine looks good, makes a lot of sense. That maybe I should give them a little more credit than I have for the Jonas Valanciunas, Jake LaRavia trades. I think those were good ones. I think there was also a logic of, hey, it's a lot easier to make those moves because the common counter is, well, why couldn't you do that with De'Aaron Fox on the team? You couldn't because you lost a lot of your second-round picks, which is their own fault. A lot of that is like a Jaden McDaniels trade. The not only trading for Jaden McDaniels when you dumped Davion Mitchell and Sasha Vezenkov, but then trading McDaniels away, you also lost second-rounders. So I think there was a thought of it's a lot easier to do these other moves after we trade Fox and they go get that additional draft capital, not only first, but a couple seconds to float around in some of these deals. And then they got rerouted for Jake LaRavia and Jonas Valanciunas. So I guess a D.
Yeah, and no matter how good your peripheral moves are, trading an all-NBA point guard and not getting adequate value in return is going to put any organization on the chopping block, especially one that doesn't get guys like that all the time, like Sacramento. So I think even when they made the call to trade De'Aaron Fox, let's just say, it had to be done, whatever. Let's ignore the possibility of they could have. People acknowledged you weren't going to get equal value in return. If you got 70 cents on the dollar, I think people would have been okay. And the fact that you still didn't end up with adequate value given those circumstances, I think Jake Fisher said 100 NBA executives, if you asked them, 100 would say they did not get enough for De'Aaron Fox. Under those circumstances, when we already knew you weren't going to get perfectly adequate value, that's the part that hurts. I would have just been happy if you gave me Sohan. Can we just get one of those silly young guys for the Spurs? I would have, just one of them would have been okay.
I agree. I definitely think the same thing. It's hard to look at the De'Aaron situation, the Mike Brown situation, and honestly, I don't care that much. Like the phone call part of calling him on the way to the airport, I'm not factoring that into this. Take those optics however you will. I think it's more so, in my mind, the decision to fire Mike Brown. And it goes back to the past offseason, right? The decision to extend him only to have a very short leash with him, I think is questionable. So just a little recap. Again, C is average. It is you met expectations, right? So keep that in mind. I went C plus Malik Monk, A for Keon Ellis, a C minus for DeMar DeRozan, a C minus for Keegan Murray, a B for Domantas Sabonis, and unfortunately a D for the front office. But on the other side here, the Kings are locked into playing the Dallas Mavericks in the first round of the play-in. TBD on if they will be hosting or going to American Airlines Center. But buddy of mine who I used to work with, Brian Zillum, previously covered the Dallas Mavericks and a former contributor to Mass Moneyball over there. Brian Zillum is going to be joining the show here on the other side. So stay tuned into that here as you're listening to Brenden Nunes filling in for Allen Stiles here on Sacktown Sports.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Spring is in the air, and there's really nothing better than hitting the open road in a new Honda. Whether you're shopping for new or pre-owned, Stockton Honda has the selection and savings. Plus, get top dollar for your trade. And while life's roads are often filled with bumps, buying from Stockton Honda couldn't be smoother. Wherever the road you travel might lead, Stockton Honda is happy to get you there. Come in today or go to StocktonHonda.com.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
Spring is in the air and summer is just around the corner. Are your kiddos ready to let their smile shine bright? Kids Care Dental and Orthodontics has a team of expert dentists and orthodontists dedicated to providing your family with the highest quality dental care. Whether it's a routine checkup or you're considering orthodontic options for teeth straightening, Kids Care Dental has you covered. Go to kidscaredental.com. That's kidscaredental.com, where you can schedule online. A beautiful, bright smile is just a few clicks away.
The PGA club fitters at the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio know that golf should be fun. They also know that players of all abilities will hit the ball farther and straighter, play better golf, shoot lower scores, and have more fun if they get fitted before they purchase golf clubs. Hagen Oaks delivers the same technology and major brands used to fit PGA and LPGA professionals. See how the game can be even more fun. Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio fittings are available 7 days a week. Make yours today by calling 916-808-2531. That's 808-2531.
The hot weather is coming. Is your HVAC system ready for it? Let Lee's Air Plumbing and Heating make sure it is. Get to Lee'sAirPlumbingandHeating.com. Check out their $99 HVAC tune-up special. And let me tell you why Lee's Air Plumbing and Heating is the way to go. They took care of me when our heater collapsed over the winter, and Lee's set us up with a great new HVAC system that is providing comfort, value, and quality. Let Lee's Air Plumbing and Heating take care of you. License number 635355.
The wait is over. Rivercats baseball is back. Whether you're cheering on your team with friends or enjoying a fun night out with the family, Sutter Health Park is the place to be. With exciting giveaways, great food, and plenty of entertainment, join us for another year of Rivercats memories all season long. Don't miss the first games of 2025. Grab your tickets today at rivercats.com.
And now a brief history of the garage door. Garage doors could date back to 450 BC when chariots were stored in gatehouses. Here in the States, they became a thing around the start of the 20th century. You could find a float-over door in a catalog way back in 1906. National Garage Door has been around since 1974. They're family-owned and operated, so you can trust them to solve any garage door issues you may have. Squeaky door, malfunctioning door, or a need for a new door, which is what prompted us to give them a call, 916-638-4554. At National Garage Door Service is their number one priority. I've witnessed that commitment in my own home, certainly in our garage. National Garage Door sells quality Rainer-branded garage doors. They are the nation's BSE broken spring experts. So if you have a garage door that looks and sounds like it dates back to 450 BC, National Garage Door can help, whether it's a garage door tune-up, repair, or replacement you need. They'll take care of you at National Garage Door, 916-638-4554. That's 916-638-4554. National Garage Door.
Spring is here, and that means gigantic savings for all your oil change needs at Jiffy Lube today. Get a $25 gift card with the purchase of any Pennzoil Platinum full synthetic oil change through May 31st at your local Jiffy Lube service center in the greater Sacramento areas. And don't forget about the additional $30 off online coupon at jiffylube.com. Terms apply. Valid email address required. See pennzoil.com/rewards for details. Jiffy Lube, a huge spring savings for you today.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Your flagship station for the Beam Team, Sacktown Sports.
Brenden Nunes here, filling in for Allen Stiles. We are out at Tom's Watch Bar here in Doco. Golden One Center here right in front of me as the Kings are going to host the Los Angeles Clippers tonight in a big game. They are slated, though, to take on the Dallas Mavericks in the first round of the play-in. Like I've mentioned, it is TBD who will be hosting. More likely than not, that game will take place in Golden One Center. If the Kings can take advantage and win one of these final two games against either the Clippers tonight or they have the Phoenix Suns, disappointing Phoenix Suns, honestly nothing to really play for at this point, coming into town on Sunday. That feels like a game that you should be able to win, no questions asked. And in not long here, we're going to get to my guy Brian Zillum, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background here as Brian is still getting set up. I don't think people realize how long of a process getting to this sort of spot has been, and we'll go back to I eventually at one point ran is a kind word, but had a podcast network with my buddy Adam Taylor, and Brian was the one that was on there covering the Dallas Mavericks. And so obviously I have plenty of conversations with him. We've stayed in contact. But as this year has gone on, we've been talking about all the chaos that has been surrounding the Dallas Mavericks. So Brian Zillum joining us here, like I said, a friend of mine from media, a former contributor to Mass Moneyball. Brian, thanks for joining the show. How are you doing, man?
Good to hear from you, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, man. And obviously, you know, we're going to get into a little bit of how Dallas has been playing recently and how that may lead to their matchup with the Kings. But I feel like we have to start with Luka's return to Dallas. How was that from your perspective? And, you know, obviously LA ends up coming away with the win, but just the entire spectacle of it, putting shirts in the stadium, the Fire Nico chants, and the video of Mark Cuban there looking like he's going through it. What was just your experience like with that whole day?
Very surreal. It was almost like celebrating somebody that had died, but they're still with us. It was a very surreal situation. And then just the half-hearted kind of like shirts that the merchandising CEO decided to do. And the video package I thought was, it was fine. I thought it wasn't like blow away. It obviously meant more to Luka. Now, was it just because the video package was very good, or he was trying to like process everything? Who knows? But just to clarify, the shirts and or video package, that had nothing to do with the governor and or general manager of the Dallas Mavericks. Let's make that very clear. That was confirmed as of yesterday. I thought the shirts gesture was kind of very extremely hollow. Just, hey, thanks for having us. Thanks for having us, pal. And just all of a sudden, even though we like literally broke your heart as you're just sitting there crying, like I just still couldn't understand it. I mean, 77 stages of grief at this point, it's just insane to kind of really just, you think maybe you can kind of go a day without seeing or being angry on how stupid this entire thing is, but you really can't, because I think everything was like starting to kind of die down into apathy, but then everything kind of just bubbled back up into rage again for like not only just me and other media members, but just like the fans in general.
Very much understandable. 77 stages of grief is a great one. I've somehow not heard that one yet. I think I know why you're saying it, but for the listeners, why do you clarify that front office wasn't necessarily part of the shirts?
Well, it was interesting. So Mark Falwell actually was on the radio yesterday with the Harm Line. It's a local radio station in Dallas-Fort Worth. And it was interesting because Mark Falwell, who's been voice of the Dallas Mavericks for a very long time, and he does a great job. He's very, he's very talented what he does. He actually got kind of in a, interesting back and forth with the host. And he basically clarified, Nico Harrison and, the governor, Patrick Dumont, had nothing to do with the celebration. That was all just kind of, I guess, the other marketing, sales, CEO part of the Dallas Mavericks organization, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I can see what you're getting at there. And obviously an extremely hectic season all around, but trying to attempt to focus on the present, I guess, even though, like you said, they're, the past is going to haunt them for a little while, but Anthony Davis obviously being the star piece back in that deal, however people may feel about that. What have you seen of how he, Max Christie, and just this new look team, while obviously they're dealing with a crazy amount of injuries, but their current form, how do you feel like they have been playing headed into this play-in?
I mean, it's hard to even really project what the team looks like or could look like because Davis, played a good 3 quarters and then was injured immediately, which obviously just added to the Luka chaos. And since Davis has returned, which I quite frankly don't think it's a good idea that he wanted to return, but it's been very clear that he wanted to get out there to not only support him, but I think he's very close to Nico Harrison. So he's obviously trying to support his boy as well. He looked pretty decent the other day versus Atlanta. I believe that was on Friday night where he hit kind of like the game winner, but I don't know, man. He's just kind of looked not well to me because if you watch the game on Wednesday, he looked very loafy all throughout transition. Didn't look well. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be one on TV or radio or podcasting. He didn't look right. So if he's trying to fight through this, it's not ideal. And I would rather him just get the abductor surgery that he needs to get this recovered and go. And then as far as like all the additional pieces, Max Christie started shooting really hot and he's kind of fallen off a cliff. And I think he has the potential to maybe be a okay kind of back end piece of the rotation, maybe like an 8th or 9th guy. But it's not like I wouldn't really expect like this high ceiling where, this could be like a future wing for the organization. He's a nice kind of like throw-in piece to the deal at this point. But just as far as what the vision could look like just with Irving going out, it's difficult to say because, right now the Dallas Mavericks for a while only had one person who could technically dribble the ball up the floor with Spencer Dinwiddie, who I believe at this point is leading the team in minutes played for the entire season. I believe so. So just think about that. And, Brandon Williams, who's signed back on for the remainder of the season, he is going to be the pseudo backup, which, deservedly so. This guy, has played his butt off to get that, contract for the remainder of the season. So happy for him. But, yeah, if I had to grade it right now or, give you my insight, I would say it's an incomplete right now just because we just haven't really had a chance to see what it looks like.
Yeah, very much understandable. Excuse any background noise as the drive guys pull into Tom's Watch Bar here. We're live out here. Obviously, they will be taking you from 2 p.m. onwards, but right now I got Brian Zillum, a good media friend of mine for years now and a former contributor for Mass Moneyball here talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, people know what AD brings when he is healthy, which obviously is a big asterisk there, but who else do you feel like, is maybe some X factors for this team? Again, I understand that it's very hard to gauge this current roster as whatever even that may mean, right? Because this current, right, with all the injuries that have taken place. But who else would you say from a Kings fan perspective that's maybe not the most well-versed with the Mavericks to kind of keep tabs on that, is performing well when that team is playing at their best?
I mean, Najee Marshall during the stretch of kind of really difficult basketball, I think he's played his butt off. He's had some very good games scoring wise. I think he's been a very under the radar signing for Dallas this season. His floaters are actually very, very nice to see. He might actually have one of the best floaters in the league right now just for the season because like every time he puts it up I just assume it goes in at this point. And now this iteration of the Mavericks once the Kings and Dallas face off will be different now that Derek Lively and Daniel Garfield are kind of back in the fold. I would just say they're not 100% themselves. So, and obviously when you don't have Luka Doncic, giving them easy buckets, they're not as, I would say, impactful. Now, AD at times has been able to connect with Lively here and there, which is, that's certainly interesting to see. But as far as anybody else to kind of like look out as far as like a win and go home situation. I mean, if there is still kind of any like heart or remnants of like the team, I mean, PJ Washington is still a guy. He's just a fighter. He's a dog. So if there's going to be a guy that probably has a really outstanding performance, if somehow Dallas ended up beating Sacramento, I would say it would probably, you'd have a game from PJ Washington where he has maybe like a 20-10 type of game.
Makes sense. Well, still, while maybe it's not all meshing, still a lot of talent on the team. Maybe less than pre-trade deadline, or I heard somebody call it Post Malone. I'm getting mixed up with Denver here, but I thought that was a great one as well. But Brian, I am gonna have to call it there. We're getting the word that we got to head to break. That's Brian Zillum, again, a good media buddy of mine that's covered the Mavericks plenty and a former contributor for Mass Moneyball. Brian, thanks for taking the time, man. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, buddy. You take care.
Yep. Thanks. Same to you. Again, Brian Zillum filling us in on what's going on with the Dallas Mavericks, as that is going to be the Kings' first play-in matchup here today, though. They do face off against the Los Angeles Clippers on the other side here. Last segment before Drive Guys take you into and up to game night. We're going to dive into the packed NBA slate that's taking place Friday, today, and Sunday, and the implications that it has specifically on the Western Conference postseason. You'll hear that here on the other side. Brenden Nunes, Sacktown Sports.
Tonight, Kings and Clippers. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729, or visit us at powercopiers.com.
With Progressive, it's easy to reach customer service with our app, website, chat, or by phone. Because when getting help is hard, it's not help at all.
Little help. A little help over here.
Thank you for calling Bench Press Assistance.
What?
Due to excessive gym volume, all available spotters are currently lifting heavy weights off the chests of other bench pressers.
Seriously?
Please continue to hold, and we will remove the barbell from your chest in the order in which your cry for help was received.
Getting assistance should be easy. With Progressive, it is. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
It's the final days of the spring sales event. Drive home your new Honda before the deals and the new Hondas disappear. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Looking to own or lease? During the spring sales event, drive a brand new Accord or Civic. Visit us today at FolsomLakeHonda.com, your one-stop Honda shop.
As a family-owned and operated dealership since 2009, customer service is our #1 priority. Our customers love doing business with us, and you will too.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
At SMUD, we power local business with incentives on clean energy equipment, tools to manage electricity usage and save money, Tailored solutions from dedicated strategic account advisors and 50% lower rates than neighboring utilities, all while doing more for the planet with clean energy solutions. Savings, reliability, personalized service, clean energy, helping local businesses thrive. That's our clean power promise. Learn more at smud.org.
If you've got a gas-powered engine, keep it running like new at every fill-up. Stable in-season protection is your engine's preventative medicine, cleaning and protecting the entire fuel system in season. In outdoor power equipment, prevent gum and varnish buildup that could cause a rough or non-running engine. For cars and trucks, increase fuel efficiency and power by removing deposits, ensuring your engine's long-term health. Stable outperforms the competition in independent lab testing. So at every fill-up, start with Stable.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it'd go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Hey, Kings fans, join Scott Marsh and Henry Turner at Tom's Watch Bar this Friday from 5:30 to 6:30 for a live game night broadcast and exclusive watch party against Los Angeles. Enjoy all the action with 360-degree viewing, prizes, and more. Tom's Watch Bar, all the sports, all the time.
Your home for Kings basketball for over 25 seasons.
Sacktown Sports.
They're nothing like us, Kyle. Brenden Nunes, Sacktown Sports, live out here at Tom's Watch Bar, leading you up to the drive guys here as Whitey starts to get settled here. Kyle Draper in the building here as well, out here at Tom's. But final segment, we've covered a lot throughout the show. I think that we did a good job, Kyle and I, going through some of our grades that are tough to evaluate, I would say, with the way that this season is gone. But also just talked about how the Western Conference is generally trying to play out right now. And it's murky. It's not the easiest thing to make sense of, as the 4 to 8 seed currently all have one game between them. Obviously 9 and 10, as we've talked about. And we're just conversing with Brian Zillum, who covers the Mavericks, about the Kings and Mavs 9-10 matchup. Whoever may end up hosting, still TBD, who is going to be in the second round of that play-in. And Friday's games, Kyle, if you'll help me out after I go through the list here, let me know which ones stand out most to you throughout here. But Friday, today, all the Western Conference games that factor in here. You have Dallas hosting Toronto. You have Minnesota hosting Brooklyn. Two maybe a little bit easier games, obviously not Western head-to-heads. Pretty interesting one, though. You have Denver hosting the Timberwolves. Obviously two teams fighting for that. Denver is hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. Thank you, Kyle. You have the Portland Trailblazers hosting the Golden State Warriors. The Kings, of course, the LA Clippers are coming to Golden One Center down here in Doko. And you have the LA Lakers hosting the Houston Rockets. Kyle, help me make sense of this entire mess that is the Western Conference.
All right. So for the Sacramento Kings' sake, first and foremost, they needed one win in the last 2 games, or Dallas needs one loss to secure the 9 seed. It's going to be Dallas and Sacramento either way, but those are the two to pay attention to most. First one to care about, Houston and the Lakers. Now, for all intents and purposes, the Lakers just need to win, and they will be the 3 seed. Now, good news for them, the Rockets are sitting everybody. Like Thompson, Van Fleet, Jalen Green, everyone is sitting because they've already locked up the 2 seeds. So the Lakers will, for all intents and purposes, be the 3 seed unless they drop this game to Tari Eason and Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd and the Houston Rockets. Let's just assume the Lakers are going to win. Is that a safe bet?
So yeah, I'm going to say yes there.
All right, so then the next most important game, Memphis and Denver. If Denver wins, it makes a lot of this a lot easier because Denver, in their last game of the season, gets the Rockets, who are also going to be sitting everyone the last game of the season, which, again, as long as they don't lose to Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepherd, they should be fine. But if Memphis goes into Denver tonight and beats the Nuggets, that unleashes chaos scenario upon the play-in. But if Denver wins, it'll make more sense because Denver would likely be the 4, Memphis would likely be 7 or 8, and then the other games will kind of fall as they may.
I think I'm rooting for Memphis just because chaos is always fun. Now, sorting through and trying to make sense of all the tiebreakers, that may be a little bit more of a headache, but I think it makes for a fun Sunday. Again, I don't love that the NBA puts all these final games on Sunday and scraps Saturday. I'm personally would be more of a fan of, I think, balancing between the two. But it makes for interesting circumstances on Sunday if Memphis does take that game, obviously. And the Sunday matchups, since there are plenty of games taking place on that day, but the ones that specifically matter for Western Conference standings as it relates to the Kings is Houston Rockets, a team that we just mentioned is sitting players in their Friday game, will be playing against the Denver Nuggets. They are hosting that in Houston. Memphis hosts Dallas. Minnesota will host Utah. Golden State plays the Clippers in Chase Center. That's an interesting one. And then you have the Lakers going to Portland. And, of course, here in Golden One Center, the Phoenix Suns, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. I mean, I guess TBD if they will be participating, but their team will be coming to Sacramento here. Kyle, standout games for Sunday?
Clippers and Warriors, man. If we have the normal situation and assume Minnesota's going to beat Brooklyn and Utah, which I feel like is a safe assumption, then Clippers Warriors would, for all intents and purposes, be winner gets the 6, loser gets the 7, potentially, or loser gets the 8, depending on how it goes. So that is the game to watch on Sunday. And again, if the game to watch to make it start to make sense is Memphis and Denver tonight, because if Memphis wins, we have 4-way tiebreakers and 3-way tiebreakers and all sorts of chaos if that goes down. But either way, you should watch Clippers and Warriors on Sunday, which is at the exact same time as the Kings game.
Absolutely. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, might be a little bit more reason to watch that one than the Sacramento game, as it is the final game of the season, and these standings are going to be the most important aspect here. But I greatly appreciate everybody that tuned in. Shout out to Allen Stiles. I hope he is enjoying his extended weekend wherever he may be traveling to. Where in the world is Allen Stiles? But my name's Brenden Nunes. Just filling in today, 10 to 2. Kyle Ledbetter behind the glass. Always enjoy working with them. And thanks to everybody for listening. We are out here at Doco. The Drive Guys are going to take you up until game night as the Kings host the Clippers here tonight at Golden One Center. Again, Brenden Nunes,